welcome to episode 23 of Zapped to the Past. My name is Adrian Mills, and I am joined as ever by Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We are using the magazine Zapped 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zapped 64 itself. In episode 23, which covers the cold and rather wet month of April 1986, we're going to be looking at the first batch of games from issue 12 of Zapped 64, along with what was going on in UK music that month. Graham, tell us exactly what we can expect in this episode.
In this twisty-turny whodunit of an episode, we clomp around the place with mecha dinosaurs in Zoids, totally avoid time travel with Back to the Future, and go full-blown super sci-fi with Starship Andromeda. We also get clothes lined with Rock and Wrestle, bleach our eyes clear with Gerry the Germ, polish our rusty sheriff's badges with Law of the West. Yeah, and finally settling on the raccoon-based bakery terror of Comic Bakery. Somebody poisoned the water hole, all right? Wasn't me, though.
Ah, great. A lot to look forward to there, so let's crack on. And our first game this month is, well, it was a cover. It was a cover game the other month, but it wasn't actually reviewed in that issue. I can't remember, which was it? Was it 11, 10?
Something like that.
I can't remember.
Something like that.
I can't remember because it's not on the cover this month because the cover's weird this month, isn't it? It's a strange old cover.
A little bit odd. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's, Oliver Frey and the Wild Boys and Julian Rignall in some kind of strange mashup.
It is a bit like that,
and a
isn't
Commodore
it?
64. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Wild Sounds, Wild Boys, it is what it is. But what it certainly isn't, because we had that the other month, is a Zoid. It's definitely not a Zoid, because that's our first game of this episode. It's Zoids from Martech. And Zoids got a whopping 96%.
Ooh, it was a big score.
It's a big one. It's not quite a gold medal, but
then again,
it's a big
do
one.
we know what really means gold medal now? It's all gone to pot now.
It has, yeah. Seeing as Ball Blazer got 98, who knows? I have no idea. Anyway, Zoids. What is Zoids? What is Zoids?
Explain Zoids now.
Zoids?
Go for it.
I don't know. I'll try my best, sort of thing. What were Zoids? Let's talk about what Zoids. Zoids were they were dinosaur toys, mechanoid dinosaur toy things. That's my recollection of them. I never had one. Did you ever have one? Did you ever have a Zoid?
No, I didn't.
No. Were they in any way like Transformers, or were they more?
I believe that's the kind of pitch. I think they were around. If they weren't of that genus, they were around at that time.
But they didn't transform, so they weren't transforming things.
No.
I think they were just dinosaur robots. I think that's what they are. Dinosaur robots.
So they were dinosaurs in disguise, but not really in disguise at all.
No, they were just robot dinosaurs. They were mechazoids or something or other. I don't know. Who knows? There's all kinds of Zoids. Hey, Zoids.
Who knows?
Zoids is the game. Zoids is the word.
And that's what it is.
Not how those lyrics that's not how the lyrics to that song go. That would be a very different song.
We are the Zoids.
Zoids is the word. Boo. Anyway, Zoids.
Zoids.
More. So what is Zoids? Zoids is it's icon-driven real-time strategy. Is my summation of this game?
Doesn't shout exciting.
I guess.
So far.
Well, no. So I was a bit nonplussed with this because I didn't quite understand why it got 96%, because I felt this had quite a lot in common, visuals aside, but how it controlled, with Quake -1 that we looked at last time. Whereas that, Zap were quite down on that. They only gave it, 60-odd%. Whereas this, they're properly raving. They're all over it. It's like 96%, one of the best things ever. Yeah, we love Zoids. And maybe they did love Zoids. Maybe they had Zoids when they were younger. I don't know. I don't know if Zoids were a big thing at this point. Who knows? Maybe they had a penchant for mechanical dinosaurs.
For some reason, I remember Zoids, and I seem to have vague memories of a cartoon-ish. But I don't remember much more about them. I don't. I just don't remember coming across a lot of Zoids. None of my friends spoke of Zoids. So this game, for me, is a bit of an anomaly, really. But there you go.
It's a strange one because it basically puts you... So what is this game? It's a real-time strategy and you control a Zoid. But what this game also is it's bloody hard. Let's not beat around the bush.
Yes.
Let's just get that in at the beginning. This is a hard old game. You will die repeatedly, a lot. Frustratingly, a lot. You will die. This is like a preempt Dark Souls.
That is not on
this
the
is
box.
way harder. What's that? You will die a lot.
You will die repeatedly.
You do.
Might put you off. I don't know. Maybe.
It could very well do. People like to challenge back then. They about we'll buy one game a month or something.
Insane level of difficulty. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, it is. So there is a story behind this, and I'll précis it quite quickly. There's some kind of terrible war with some a race of people who created dinosaurs, and obviously there was a meteor shower that turned them mechanical and turned them alive or something. There was a big war, and they kicked them off the planet, and the red Zoids went off to somewhere else and became something else and came back, and then all the people died, and there was only blue Zoids left or something, and the red Zoids kicked the blue Zoids' asses, as you do. It's kind of reminded me of that old advert when the red car and the blue car had a race.
Because it's red and blue. What's that for? The red car and the blue car had a race.
What was it? Was it
Smiled old blue heat took Milky Way. Milky Way took smiled old blue heat took the Milky Way. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So for some reason when I was making my notes on this, that song popped into my head.
Looking for a red and blue Zoids. I want fluffy and light. Yeah. Oh, good advert. Good advert. Anyway.
It was nice animation. Anyway. So what happens is, in a bizarre twist of fate, just as the Reds are about to achieve victory, Earthman appears. I don't know why.
Bummer.
It's usually what happens in these things. Earthman appears, and he learns the ways of Zoid thought.
Yes, he does.
I'm not making this up, by the way. This is the story. Anyway, he concocts a plan. I think it's him, something along the lines. There's a plan to create Zoidzilla, which they'll put together, which will be the greatest of all the Zoids, and then we'll come back and then we'll kick the red Zoid's ass. But, as normally happens in these kind of things, it gets blown to bits. And 8 parts of it scatter around and end up getting picked up by the red Zoids and buried under their cities. But you, the Earthman, and a tank Zoid manage to mind meld and go off to find these 8 parts of Zoidzilla, and thus the game begins. So the game is icon driven. There are 3 parts to this screen that you'll see. A lot of black space on this screen though. A lot of empty space, because the actual action kind of only takes place in like the middle ninth. If you were to split the screen to 3x3, you've got the middle square, the one you always take in the first when you're playing noughts and crosses or tic-tac-toe, whatever. You take that one sort of thing. So that's where the action takes place. So you're in the middle of the tic-tac-toe board, noughts and crosses board. In there is a map. It's quite a simplistic map. There's some yellow dots, which is a yellow dot, which is you. There is some yellow triangles, which represent, I think, mountains. And then there are some crosses, which represent objects. There are circles. There are red stuff, which are the red Zoids. And essentially, you just got to wander around. By clicking on it, a little window will pop up. You pick a direction. You wander off. You will run into stuff. It will kill you, and you will restart.
Yep.
That's kind of what this game is. There's a lot going on. There is, it's quite a lot. If you can get into it, there's quite a lot of strategy here. There's quite a lot to get your head around. It was created by the Electronic Pencil Company, who we have seen in a previous episode, because they did the 4th Protocol game. And you can see that this is an evolution of their window icon-based tech that they had running on that. It's also similar in, I think there's them and Denton Designs probably developing this kind of window popping software in conjunction, but this works quite well. Things pop up. There's lots of windows popping up that tell you stuff. You can fight with missiles, which are incredibly tricky to control. You have to kind of work out how much fuel you want in them. You have a railgun, which is one of the hardest things I've ever had to control, because you've got to drag an icon to the middle of the screen, but it's constantly fighting you. You can try jamming cities with the radio wavelengths, but trying to get your wavelength the same as theirs with these weird controls is while also all the time being bombed the crap out of by other Zoids, by the red Zoids. Yeah, it's so hard. This game is so hard, and yet there is something here, and maybe it's because it's driven on by a really, really good Rob Hubbard piece of music. I know it's not one of your particular favourites. It is one of my favourites, though. It is one of my favourites of his. I think it's a really good piece because it does suit this game. It really does lend a sense of drama and it has mechanical overtones to it. I don't know. There's something about it that fits this Zoid barren world war landscape, whatever. But, this game's not for the faint of heart. It's not. If you're going into this and you want to get into this, be prepared, because this is going to make you, frustrate you at every turn, because it doesn't give you any time. It's just instantly you're in, and you can't even it will let you get to the first city and maybe warm you up a bit. No, there's instantly the spider Zoids running about, there's mechazoids charging in, there's missiles firing down at you, dead. Oh God. There's no clue as to which direction to go in. There's no clue which cities have Zoidzilla underneath it. I don't know. It's hard. Is it good? Yeah, I guess. It's good in the same way that Quake -1 is. If you want an icon real-time action icon-driven strategy game, you'll probably like this. But it is what it is. I don't know. What was your thoughts on it, Graham? You tell, because I think to have. I can say it's very hard a million more times.
To keep it nice and simple, I thought that there was an interesting concept in there. There's no doubt about that. I was never into the toys, models, whatever Zoids actually was as a thing. I was never into that, and it never really came across my radar a lot. I'd heard of them in the same way that I'd heard of He-Man. So I think it passed, perhaps there's a cartoon I've seen somewhere. I don't know. I don't quite know how I engaged with it. It wasn't my thing. I wasn't into it. So I quite liked the idea of wandering around as a kind of a giant mecha monster thing, and the icons and the maps and everything else seemed quite interesting enough. And it was engaging. I quite liked the way you controlled it. I wasn't wholly sure what on earth I was doing some of the time. I mean, I did look up some instructions online, and so it enabled me to kind of get a bit of a feel for the game. It wasn't a game that I ever played before, way back in the day either. I'd heard the music like a million times, but I never played the game. And I wanted to give it kind of a good shot. So I wanted my time as a Spider Zoid to be fruitful and enjoyable. I was going to try and find the 6 parts of the Zoidzilla and avoid all those red Zoids and do all that stuff. That was my plan. I didn't get to do a lot of that, has to be said, because it's quite hard. So I did end up wandering around sort of the landscape as much as you can feel like you're wandering a landscape as a pixel. I felt that the scale of the things you were seeing on the screen belied the scale of the thing that you were, and I found that a little bit problematic. So I felt like I didn't feel all the time that I was in control of something huge. Just felt like I was in the control of a dot attacking other dots. I laid some mines. I'm not wholly sure how, but I did lay some mines. I'm assuming for something that would run into them, whatever that might be. It felt like a very tactical, lengthy game that if you took the time to get into it and absorbed the world of it, and you were into Zoids especially, you're probably going to get quite a bit from it. It wasn't graphically amazing, but it had all the component parts of a strategy game that made it quite interesting. It certainly had the difficulty of a strategy game. That was my key thing. It was rock hard. So I didn't get that far, and so it was Spider Zoid or not, I wasn't going to do well as a Zoid in this world. I was kind of like a crap Zoid. Just kind of flitting about, just pissing people off and annoying people, getting in the way. Hey, I'm Spider Zoid, hiya. And they're like, no, you're a rubbish, get out. And I suppose, so the long and the short of it was, I tried my best to enjoy it, and in part I did. I just felt like it wasn't quite I didn't quite get the scale and grandeur of the concept of the thing I was controlling. And I think that's partly because the music has that big, stompy, clonky, mechanic feel. It is a good score in that respect. And it conveys that kind of big, mechanical, monolithic, in my sense, sort of Spider-Zoid, whatever that is. But that whole idea of big robotic dinosaur type things clomping around, I get that from the soundtrack. I get that from the kind of descriptions of what you are and everything else. It just didn't quite come across in the game. In the tactical ways that you played the shooty bits and the blowy up bits and the laying mines bits, however confusing that might be, it didn't come across that way. But is it something that's, these kind of strategy games, they're for an audience that like that kind of view, and they kind of dig it. The kind of map view, the icons, the controlling it and making choices and doing that thing that appeals to that kind of almost like turn-based sort of gamer. I'm just not that kind of gamer. Now, if I'd have been a Zoid, I'd have settled for it being a bit more like Roland's Rat Race, but being a Zoid, just jumping up and down platforms.
No.
Stomping on things. Just being Spider Zoid, just chilling out, smashing stuff up, just, being an annoying Spider Zoid. In this, I just felt like I was wandering around, bumping into dots. So, and as far as the soundtrack goes, it isn't my favourite Hubbard soundtrack. It's not actually a Hubbard soundtrack. It's borrowed. So it's a version of...
it's a cover. It's a cover, isn't it?
It's Synergy and Ancestors, and that's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not saying there anything is. It's just not my favourite Hubbard soundtrack for a game. But that doesn't mean that it isn't good for this game. It is. It's just not my favourite one. It does suit that kind of big, sort of mechanical... It has that feel to it. So this, for the $8.95 you've paid, does it deserve... like Sizzler 96, it probably does, because it's a bit unique. And I think in there, if you like Zoids especially, I don't quite know, if you took Zoids off this and just called it, an Attack of the Giant Robo-Dinos, dinosaurs or something similar. Dinos is good.
Dinodors.
Dinos will work.
Attack of the Dinodors.
Yeah, exactly. Attack of the Robo-Dinosaurs, or Attack of the... No, it doesn't have to be a Zoid. It could just be it could just be dinosaurs for all the difference it makes. From your point of view, you're controlling a dot, so it's irrelevant really what it is. I just felt like it was absent of views of Zoids. It could have done with just being a bit more Zoidy. But, that's me. It just felt, it had all of the... It's like all of the costume of a Zoid, but, it's a bit Wizard of Oz. When you peel back the curtain, it was just some guy pretending to be a Zoid going, oh, check out the Zoids. Listen to the music. Listen how big the Zoids are. And so it just felt a bit like that for me. Grand in scope, small in tiny pixel dots. But there's a game in there for somebody, I'm sure.
But I guess isn't that a case of the C64 can't do massive dinosaurs, and if it does, they would look stupid.
Well, you could do them like William Wobbler, giant wobbly-headed dinosaurs of medium res quality.
Don't you hate me? Don't do that. Don't make me think of William Wobbler Zoid. That's awful.
Awful it may be. What I mean to say is the Commodore 64 is capable of grandeur, albeit blocky grandeur. But this is, I suppose...
There's nothing grandeur about William Wobbler.
No, as a Zoid, it could have worked.
No.
Change out the music, change out the sprites, change out the game logic, add the word Zoids.
Give it to Tony Crowther.
Zoidy Wobbler. And you've got,
Wobbly Zoid.
Wobbly Zoid.
Willy Zoid.
Willy Zoid Wobbler.
Willy Zoid sounds like a darts player.
And he probably was. And he would have been
up to the hockey. It's Willy Zoid.
Willy Zoid now. All he needs is a 3-dart finish. But he's only got 2 darts. We don't know why. What are we talking about? Irrespective of all of those things, yes.
If he was, though, he'd aim his darts like the missile section in the game. Be really miss constantly.
Yeah, if you miss,
he'd be a terrible darts
you
player.
only get one shot and you're dead. so as soon as you miss the dartboard, that guy who reads the scores just comes and beheads him. Like, he's dead now.
And he keeps getting barred from many pubs from dropping mines everywhere. You're out. You're barred.
You're barred.
Oh, you really out.
Get out. Nothing for 2 in a bed. Nothing. Not even in this game. Anyway.
Now he's on bullseye.
Well,
awesome.
So his darts. Willy Zoid Wobbler playing darts on bullseye. Why not? Why not?
Look what you could have
won an upgrade for your Spider Zoid legs, you crap darts player. That would have been my response. But that's by the by. Long and the short of it was, after that bizarre little sojourn, that I thought there was a good game in there, albeit just a bit small on scale, big on ideas. Maybe that's my take on it, I think.
No, I agree. There is a good game here. I mean, they've got pedigree with the Fourth Protocol, so there's no doubting that they can make a good game with icons.
That would have been mixing the two to have a Zoid person trying to infiltrate the Russian secret service. It would have been a bit obvious, wouldn't they? Because he would have been a giant robotic dinosaur. But are you sure, comrade?
You don't look like a Russian to me.
You don't look like Ivan. Where is Ivan? You don't look like Ivan. Ivan did not have giant metallic arms. Nor the teeth.
My name is Willy.
And his name Willy the Russian spy.
That is Willy Zoidsbug.
Willy Zoidsky. Anyway, but what? See,
anyway.
It's always good that these games have concepts that can be expanded into other genres and ideas.
Absolutely. And they'll make a good sequel.
And I like to think that we do that. But back to the actual game. I mean, did you get the same thing? I just thought, I just got tired of controlling a dot, I guess.
I didn't mind. I'll be honest. The visuals I didn't mind because I could belie what it was trying to, represent. So I get it. Yes, you are just controlling a dot, but I was able to just put that to one side and picture that this was a massive robot thing that I was mind melded with, and everything else was going on. And I was like, okay, I'm picturing this like it's some kind of top-down satellite type view. Fair enough. And I could belie that. For me, I just ended up banging my head against once I got to a city, it was game over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where I struggled because I couldn't. I like that they have a notion sort of thing. I don't know how they would do it, but they need a quicker way to get out of those bloody windows. Do you know what I mean?
Get out the bloody window, you bloody Zoid. Get out like a wasp, like an annoying wasp that's come in. Get out.
In the game.
Bat it with a stick. Get out. Piece of paper, just waft it at it. Get out the window. Get out. Coming in my windows, you bloody Zoid. I know how you feel about that.
Yeah, exactly. So there needed to be a quick, because you press on the Zoid, and then another window might pop up saying, "Oh, this is happening," and you have to move the joystick to get all the way to the edge, the cursor to an edge to get out of them. I don't know what they could have done, whether it was hit the space bar to close it, because it wasn't fast action, so you could have easily pressed the space bar or something, but you needed a quicker way to get out of some of the windows, and that's what really I found frustrating.
Yeah.
That the controls were just a bit too sluggish.
They took controlling a robotic giant dinosaur too seriously. Come on, speed it up. It's quicker gears, a bit like get Shimano gears on it. None of these rally gears. Get the Shimanos on it. Drop lever. Come on, or something more advanced than that, because that shows how old my bicycle knowledge actually is. Because I think now you can control them by thought, but as long as you think of gear changes in Russian.
In Russian, absolutely. Good. Same with Zoids.
Change to second gear.
Control them in Russian.
Change to second gear in Russian. No.
Change ski to second ski.
Do you know, that's the best Russian of that, though. It is. Because it can't be far off, but I'm sure somebody out there will correct us.
I'm sure they will, sort of thing, and I'm sure all our Russian listeners have left us. Anyway, Zoids. Yes. It is good. It's just bloody hard.
Yeah, it's hard and it's tiny, and Zoids are massive. So,
and that's yes.
And just go with that. Go with that logic, and you're all good.
Yeah. Okay, that's Zoids. What we got coming up next? Well, Zoids was good, and it was certainly better than our next game because Graham, tell us all about Back to the Future. The game.
Yeah, Back to the Future. All that lovely licensing, crazy, all that stuff you could make into a game, and they managed to pack 32% out of the Zapped review for it. Bit disappointing, isn't it? So, it's Back to the Future, okay? So, it's principally the game of the film. You are Marty McFly, so you're the hero of the film, and the idea you've time traveled to 1955, and you've got to reunite your parents and make sure that they stick together so that your family and everyone doesn't disappear and your timeline isn't destroyed. In the film, in the game, in the same way as the film, you have images at the bottom of the screen which are photographs, and you've got to complete a series of tasks. You've got to sort of lead people to certain things, pick certain objects up and get them into certain places to do certain things throughout the game in order to sustain the image of you and your family, and also to keep the timeline succinct. But it's exactly like the film in that respect, so to the point when you can keep your parents from together so that they don't not meet and then you don't exist and end of game. So it's Back to the Future in all of its thematic, but the problems kind of begin after that. So concept-wise, this is a great concept, good idea. Yeah, it's based on the film, it's all good. And there are some things that are nice about it. So all of that game that I've described is kind of played over kind of left and right scrolling screens. The backgrounds aren't too bad. I actually thought the main sprites in the game are actually quite nicely animated, the way they walk and move around. And you have to wander around in and out of the buildings, kind of collecting objects to use on different people or guide people to doing different things. And in doing that, that is kind of the game logic, and that's sort of where the problem is mainly. It gets a bit boring. And I felt that there's a lot more you could have done with this game. There's so much that happens in that film that there's so many options to make little mini games of little bits. I'm sure that with a bit more thought, you could do that and not make this kind of a wander around pick 'em up, which is what it is. So you play the game and it goes from being Back to the Future to a really bizarre 8-bit version of It Follows. I don't know if you experienced that, but I was just being followed around all the time, man. These characters from the film who just killed me. So I was just wandering around. I got tired of being followed by a representation of Marty McFly's, well, it's his young mother, but it's in the film she becomes obsessed with him. In the game, she becomes equally obsessed with him, but she becomes the It Follows creature and just follows him around annoyingly. So it goes from being Back to the Future to It Follows, and the notion of what happens in the film seems a little bit unrelated to the game at points. So it sort of just takes on a sort of a logic of its own, where you've got to do certain things in the game to if they'd have followed the plot of the film, it would have made sense to do things that are in the film. So you've got to go and put certain things in a certain place, and you've got to pick certain things up at certain times in order for things to make sense. But that doesn't really happen in the game. It kind of beats its own drum. And because of that, if you come at it as a Back to the Future fan, it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't follow the film enough for you to be able to make strategic decisions about the certain objects that you get, because you think, well, at what point in the film did he have one of those? And where did he take that? If it was the almanac that you got from the shop, then you have that, and then it gets stuck in the principal's office, and you got to figure out all of that.
But that's in number 2, though.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's the idea of it is that there's things in the game that things in the film that they could have made into certain things.
Yes,
events in the game, the events in the film, that should have happened in the game, and they don't happen in neither the order or the sequence that they do. So it kind of sort of sticks to the key big things. The sort of the the underwater dance, but the
enchantment under the
sea dance, and some of those iconographic things from the film are in it. But just you end up just kind of trying to avoid people most often in this game because you're just being followed a lot. So the music was chirpy but annoying. It could have been better versions of the music. The look of the game is quite nice and its graphics are okay. There's some early digitization of stuff. I think they'd have been better off just drawing the characters and not trying to sort of do some crap 8-bit scanned nonsense. So you get Marty McFly, sort of, and you get some of the other characters, kind of, and it's just like, it's just a bit of a cheap shot to do it that way. I get why they did it, but it doesn't work in this context. So, nice ideas. I like the animation of the main sprites, the walking animation, and the way there's little animations on the hair and the way they move is quite nice, but it's devoid of the fun of the film, and the character of the film isn't there because the events don't match, or the things you need to do don't match. So, what you end up with is it follows, and because it becomes it follows, like it follows, you know what? You're going to end up dead for awful and awkward reasons, none of which are necessarily the reasons he set out to play this game. So that was my take on it. I think 32% was generous. What the tragedy here is that this is £9.95 for a really good licensed game made badly, and that's disappointing because there's so much mileage in a Back to the Future game that you could have done. I mean, I think you control the DeLorean at a certain point in the game. I never got that far, but I think you do.
No, did I?
But I think there are parts when you do that, but what point would there be to it? Unless it's the very final sequence of the game, but I don't know. Did you like Back to the Future as a game?
No, God, no. My first comment is this: I feel bad that I riffed on this for the name of the podcast. That's what I put.
Yes, we did a bit.
Well, it's Zapped to the Past, Back to the Future. That was one of my inspirations for the title.
Go back in time and change it.
I'm not going to beat around the bush. That was what I thought. Anywho, this was, to me, this is a Martin Walker game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it shows a bit.
And it does, because like Rupert before, when he did the first Rupert game sort of thing, it's visually, as you say, I did agree. I like the sprites as well. He has a knack for animating, animating nice sprites.
Nicely done. And it was obvious who they were as well.
Yeah, but I think this was a thankless task for him, trying to make anything resembling a game out of Back to the Future. I don't think Back to the Future lends itself to a video game in any shape or form. It's not a video game film. It's nothing. The plot is
contrived and difficult.
The main story of the film. Yeah, to get it to do something. I mean, what would you do? Would you make like a little sort of rhythm action bit out of the enchantment under the sea?
It was missing the Libyan terrorist shootout at the beginning, and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but to me, this was just it reminded me of a slightly better, that god-awful Flintstones game.
Yes, yeah. Same sort of logic,
It's the same thing. You wander about, you pick stuff up, you watch photos decay or not. I don't know. Sometimes my photos came back, sometimes they went away. I don't know what I did to do whatever. There's elements of the films there. There's recognisable things, and it's probably because I know the film and I thought the sprites were therefore recognisable. I don't know if I don't remember Marty McFly dressed all in red. It was a bit weird. But
he had red on him.
He had red on him, but not if you watch that title. If you look at that title screen where he's very grey.
Yeah, mistake with those silly
digitized title
just
screen.
Why do that? Don't
those digitized nonsense.
Just draw him. Goodness sake! I mean, it wouldn't have been hard.
Look how it's not it's not brilliant by today's standards, but the Rambo title screen is a really good title screen because it's drawn with colour.
Yeah, I mean you've got those iconic images as well of Marty McFly looking at his watch, the sort of surprised look. All those Back to the Future tropes are all there for you to just rich pickings, really, isn't it?
Yeah. There's lots they could have done. Well, I don't know if they could. I think that, to me, I have the impression that the game, the film came out in December. The game's coming out in April. I have a feeling that this was we need a game. Get something out. Yeah. We got, maybe it was in production a few months before, I don't know, but this feels like, I'm not saying it's as bad as that, but it feels like, but it also has...
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It has a whiff of E.T.
Yeah, and then I said to Matt Walker, do you know what? Don't worry about the timeline for making this game. We've got a DeLorean. We'll park it in your drive. If it feels like it's getting a bit much, just drop up that to 8 miles an hour, pop back a couple of weeks, and you've got an extra bit of time. The deadline is easy to hit. It's all yours. It's all there for you. Just don't run into yourself. For God's sake, if you watch Primer, you won't have seen it. Now you need to go to the future for that. Go to the future, watch Primer, then go back and then don't touch yourself in any capacity.
Or that's Time Cop.
Oh, God, that's even worse. It's all kinds of...
Because if you're going to touch yourself, you're going to turn into jellied goop.
Yes.
A really bad CG jellied goop sort of thing. And then enjoy goulash
100 times.
100 times.
But yes, I for some reason have taken you on a wild spinny diversion.
Well,
but
it's all time travel, isn't it?
It is.
That's the problem with this. That's the problem with this game. There's no time travel. Not that I could find.
You've already time travelled, haven't you? Really? So you don't go back to the future. Well, you do go back to the future once, but you did it before you got there.
Yeah. See, to me, this is
Wouldn't have been as catchy if it was you are in the past.
Well, if you're going to do the film, at least give me the elements of the film.
Yeah,
like
an intro.
There could have been some, super sprint style nonsense where you were driving around that car park trying to get to 88 miles an hour while avoiding missiles from Libyans.
Like I said, there's opportunities.
I would have gone for that.
Exactly as I say. There's moments in that film that could have just made for good gaming, right?
Yeah, they could have. Trying to sneak into George's house so you can be dressed up as Darth Vader and play the Walkman at him.
Yeah.
Could have been a little stealth simulation. There's loads of bits that could have been done, but this seems to me like they had very, very limited time.
Yeah.
Like we said, maybe with Rambo, these things are on a short time limit. The film's out, the game has got, we need the game out. Well, but we've got all these great ideas. God, shut up. This game needs to be out.
Just get it made, Walker.
And that's what I think is happening here. We're just seeing.
Don't make us erase your family in the past.
Absolutely. I've got a photo of you. Oh, not that photo.
I want that one erasing.
Please do, Betty Lou. Yeah. So that's what this smells of to me. It smells of short development time and not allowed in any way, shape, or form to make something that could have been good. And we know Martin Walker's got the game-making chops to make something decent. He does some decent games down the road. But to me, this is a very short space of time. We need a game out to cash in on Back to the Future while people are still liking it. So let's get this game out. $9.95, people will buy it. Put Marty McFly back. Hey, it's all good, innit? Yeah. No, the game is not good.
No.
And I will be going back in time to change the name of this podcast.
No. And it goes in line with these games from the 80s that have... Because E.T. had a bad game. Back to the Future's got a bad game. I'm just wondering if it follows the kind of Zemeckis, Spielberg-y kind of principle that they're not allowed to have good games based on their IP, their film IP, because it's just, no, you're not allowed. It's a shame. It's such a shame.
Are there any that are? Well, I think it was quite good in the arcade, wasn't it? Temple of Doom.
Yeah, that's in the arcade, the C64 version. Okay.
It was a version.
It won't be found.
I'm sure we'll see that.
You won't, and it won't be found. Malalack of Ram. No.
Oh, chilled monkey brain.
Chilled monkey brains. No.
That version.
No. So, yeah, like you said, it's just, I agree with you completely. Not enough time clearly spent on this, which is the tragedy. The tragedy is that they push these things out and race these things out. A bit of time needed for something like this would have really benefited the game. It's such good material to make a game from. In the same way, well, actually, no, I was going to say then that we're similar to James Roger Moore's Brown Coat Adventure in his Parisian brown coat challenge, but that's one of our missions, by the way, is to actually get the name change of that on Wikipedia from A View to a Kill to Roger Moore's Brown Coat Adventure. Brown Jacket I was
Adventure.
Watching Roger Moore play Roger Moore in Cannonball Run only last night. Anyway, that's a completely different conversation. The long and the short of it was that, and the reason I mention it is that it was a license again that had mileage. But they just didn't have the time to make it into anything good, and so they just went for the quick, cheap option. In this instance, it follows the 8-bit version. Very depressing, very depressing.
That was weird. It was very strange, that.
Yeah.
Okay, Back to the Future, we don't like that. No, wasn't very good.
Back to the Future, no, dog egg.
No, Future, back off. So, our last game in this section, before we move on to music. There's not many games this issue, by the way. There's only 14. Games are going, so there's only 7 in this episode, so we can only review what's there.
And the next one is a whopper, isn't it? Goodness, good luck with this one.
Oh, what? Starship Andromeda?
Yeah,
that's our next game.
It's a biggie, isn't it, in scope?
Is it?
Yeah, it's got lots of description.
You might need to. I put this down as myself. I'll give it a go.
Go for it.
My first comment in this. I read the review and I read the read about it, sort of thing. So, and what is a semi-mystical amulet? Because surely, as soon as an amulet has some kind of mystical element, it is a mystical amulet. You can't have semi-mystical.
Well, is this not from Pandora? the same company that brings you semi-precious stones?
I don't know, maybe. I thought you meant Pandora's box then, because Pandora's box can't be it can't be semi-open. It's either open or not.
No, Pandora make lab-grown diamonds. So make of that what you will.
Yeah, but mysticalness is not... Precious stones are very... there are many different types of stone. As far as I'm aware, there's not many different mysticals.
Well, semi-precious stone is neither precious nor not precious. It's just kind of half.
Yeah, but...
So is it half mystical?
But then it's maybe... But it's like a topaz or something.
Yeah, is it half true, though? A semi-mystical event? Is that something that might have happened, but
no,
half
you
did?
Can't have semi-mystical. You can't. I'm sorry. I'm not having
I'm not justifying this crazy stupidity. I'm just thinking, yeah, maybe that's the rationale for their nonsense.
So I did think maybe it was, is it a middle that's mystical and the rest is just plain old quartz? I don't know, like a watch. It's got a mystical face, but the thingy's not. Anyway, this discussion is better than the game. Because the whole point of this semi-mystical amulet is that someone called Alana, the evil Alana, has one, and she rules over the galaxy in an evil manner. I'm very sorry. I've got very little to say about this game because I didn't get anywhere in it. This means nothing to anything because all I did in this game was fly through space and then went into metaspace randomly and then came back out of metaspace and then fly back into metaspace and came out of metaspace into real space and back. That was it. I died. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I played this for about half an hour doing that, thinking something might happen or I was doing something wrong. What was going on? Did you get any further in this?
So
because I didn't.
There's a red pill and there's a blue pill for this game, right? So, it depends which one you take. The red pill is that this is a massive science fiction game. And I think this massively borrows from Isaac Asimov's science fiction. So it's not just science fiction, it's heavy science fiction. So all of that Federation and Empire stuff that Asimov wrote about. So you're in a galaxy controlled by the Federation. Alana is the one that has access to the Mind Lord computer. The key to that computer is a crystal that hangs on a pentite necklace, which is the hardest element in the galaxy, and only a proton lance powered by Zyron and Trist can cut it. So you've got to go after Alana, get the crystal into your starship, the Andromeda, move around the galaxy because her location is very difficult to spot, very cruel, just putting it out there, and move to Starbase and do that stuff. So, and you travel through metaspace or through real space. Real space takes forever, for literally real time. So you are traveling through space in real time, so you could be months in real space. Metaspace is the ability to sort of fold space. We're borrowing again from Frank Herbert and Dune. So without going into the endless diatribe that this game compounds from all these sci-fi influences, the long and the short of it is, what is this game? What do I have to do? What is it? And reality is, it's just a mishmash of half-assed sci-fi connected mini-games with crap graphics, a mixture of resolutions, which didn't give you a feel of anything you were really doing in terms of sci-fi. And it just looked like a lot of other games, a vast load of empty space with bits in it probably, but mostly space. Just mostly space. It's just travel around space simulator. The easiest simulator in the world to do. I thought that when you create simulators, I thought that ground and sky was like the baseline. If you're going to do a crap simulator of anything, ground and sky, like they did in Glider Pilot and many others, and we've come across a few. Sky, ground, sky, green, blue. Green, blue, blue, green, sky. And the line in between is the horizon and sky. Sky goes up, green goes down. You get the idea. In space, it's all black. So it's just flying around black. So they've even taken away the interesting bit of looking at two colours. So in this, it's just, I just floated around a lot. I didn't bump into anything that I could honestly tell you was a challenge. Not that I was, and there was something did appear at a certain time and I shot at it, I think. But it's just one of those games when they've had really big sci-fi ideas and they've wrapped it in this massive sci-fi tale, and there's all the trappings. It reads more like a film idea than a game idea. So they've put all of this stuff together, borrowed from Isaac Asimov, borrowed from Frank Herbert, borrowed from Star Wars and Lucas and all those things for some of the trappings. What you end up with is boring space simulation. Nothing exciting. I mean, you can thrust around. You can detect things by pressing different key commands. I think you press D to detect, L to see your sights, and it doesn't matter. It's just boring. Boring, space, boring. And mostly space, but mostly boring. I didn't enjoy it. I thought this was a 15 quid game on disc. I'd have been heartbroken beyond the capacity for rational thought had I splashed out 15 quid, which is a lot of money back then, on a disc game. Because, you know what? I think I'd have just reached for the magnets and gone, this game's done. I'm getting the magnets on this game, that's it. And I'm erasing it for the good of humanity. I'm raising it. Got 52% in Zap. I think that's generous, really. I think they were just, because some of them are kind of sci-fi heads in Zap, the reviewers, and when you read the review of it in the magazine, you get that idea that there's a lot to it. It's great. There's backstory. It doesn't matter if you make the game boring like this. I mean, did you get to any of the mini games that were actually exciting? Because
No, that's what I'm saying. I flew through metaspace, and every time I went through one of those blue wormholes, came back into real space, within 2 seconds, it just flung me back into metaspace.
Yes.
I didn't know what I was doing wrong.
No. And did you find that I was on an emulator using using Vice and a 1541 emulator. I reached for that warp button on that more often than not because the load times were painful, even on disc. I can't imagine the clacky of the 1541 drive over that period of time. I'd have ended up throwing my disk drive out the window because those things clacked a lot. No, it was taka 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 zip, taka 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 zzz, and it's reading a disc with magnets and all of that. It drive you mad just to get confronted with slightly less black with a few dots on it. No, why do this? Just if I want to play boring space games, I'm going to go to Elite. At least there's a chance I might bump into something.
On the way from Lave to Dizzo, back to Lave again.
You know what? As much as they are very boring, and there are things you can trade with Dizzo. Not slaves, because they don't like that. But you know what? Just the basics. I don't even know. What am I talking about? I don't know what you can trade with Dizzo. They don't like anything I was trading.
Narcotics?
No, that's how you get the police involved. Sheep and it doesn't matter.
Hair dryers.
If you're going to play space simulations, just go for Elite. If you like that kind of thing, it's less sci-fi backstory, more action, and that's saying a lot because this game has none. So just if you're into that, go for that. Otherwise, avoid this one because it's dull. And the word Andromeda is not necessarily just by putting these spacey sounding things in there. Mm-hmm. Starship Andromeda. Did you get a feeling that you were in control of a starship? I didn't.
Oh, I didn't get. I got a feeling of nothing.
No, exactly.
I got a feeling that I wanted to go to the toilet. That's what my feeling was.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing happened. Nothing. I went to the toilet.
No.
I was in control of a galactic Starship Andromeda. Nipped off to the bog for a quick riddle, came back, and I was in exactly the same part of metaspace as I was when I left. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Now
I went to got the red dwarf.
Exactly. A brown dwarf.
A blue giant.
Yeah. Painfully hot, that. But,
I had a curry. I had a semi-mystical curry the night before. That's what it was.
Do yourself a favour and avoid this absolute bore fest. And don't bother with it. Just get by a telescope and look at the stars. It's more interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that because I thought I'd missed out on a brilliant game here when I was starting this, and you were going, "There's two," and I was like, "No." But I'm glad I didn't miss out on a good game.
Well, the red pill was the story I gave you. It was a good game. The blue pill was poison that you took and it killed you instantly. That was my so I didn't opt for the red pill because I thought, you know what. I don't like the game, but I don't want to kill myself over it. So I just went for the blue pill and ended up feeling like... in the end, I felt a bit like a 1541 hard drive, just sat on the side, doing very little, periodically clacking, and just getting annoyed with myself and periodically wondering whether I should flip the disc over or not. I don't know. Rubbish.
Yeah.
50% for this nonsense. Get out of here. What are you doing?
Yeah, let's call it a galactic day on Starship Andromeda.
Dump is what it is. Massive dump.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's a proper black hole.
Dark matter.
with a yeah, we've all produced that. Right. Yes, that's this part. Those are our first three games, Zoids, Back to the Future, and Starship Andromeda. I will say, just before we do move on, that we were commenting on this before we started recording, that this issue is a particularly odd batch of games that has no rhyme nor reason or throughput for any of them. It's a strange mix of stuff that you're going to get in this episode and next week as well, because it's odd. And I mean that first three, you've got giant robot dinosaurs, you've got Back to It Follows, and Subpar Isaac Asimov. was like, what is going on this month? Is there something in the water? I don't know. Anyway,
but
let's
Subpar Asimov is a great name for a band. Come on. Some kind of
Asimov.
Yeah, some kind. I mean, it sounds a bit rude, but at the same time, don't suck Eddie Asimov. But it's just But either way, it sounds like a good name for a band. I'd go and see them. I'd pay to see them at a gig. I think you'd get kind of a 70s, 80s synth vibe out of that. Subpar Asimov.
Maybe. I don't know. They'd probably be. I think they'd be quite proggy.
Yeah.
They'd be taking. Our next track is called "Into the Metaspace."
It's called. It's called.
I'm leaving.
AI. It's 3 hours
I'm
long.
leaving.
And it will bore you to death. Yeah.
It starts like this: clack, clacky, clack, clack. Where
Blue fairy,
clacky, clack. Where
blue fairy, clack, clack, clack. Blue fairy, clack, clack. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. No. End of line for you, Starship Andromeda.
Yeah. So we've been Subpar Asimov for this part. And we're going to move on. We'll be back after this break and advert. We've got adverts, haven't we?
We do.
We've got ads.
We have.
We
We've
do.
got
We've got
sponsors.
ads now.
Yes.
We've got sponsors.
Messages.
So hopefully we have. If not, cut this bit if they've pulled out.
We've got a message from our lovely, amazing sponsor, and amazing these two.
Yeah, so listen to that, and then we'll be back after that with music in April 1986. So see you in a bit. Thanks to our sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com, where you'll find books and audiobooks that are as cheap as actual chips. Dave's next book, Escape from the Commodore 64, sees someone trapped inside their bread bin. They have to complete one of the games they're stuck in to escape. They're suddenly transported back to an old Wild West town with only 4 replies to pick from as they round up the outlaws. Can they make it to sunset? Sounds better than being stuck in Elite, where they would go back from Lave to Dizzo to Lave. Books, ebook, and audiobook is coming out before Christmas, so visit DavidHearnWriter.com. That's David, Hearne, writer.com to find out more. Okay, welcome back. That's the first lot of games. Let's move on to music in April 1986. So what we got here? Do our normal. Let's look at the number 1 singles. I think we had this last time. Cliff Richard and the Young Ones at number 1. There for a week or so. So I think he was in from the last month, for the last week of last month into April, and then 1 week properly in April. And there was then ousted quite forcibly by George Michael for the last 3 weeks of the month with A Different Corner.
A song all about Muller corner yogurts.
I really hope so, because I have no idea what it's about.
That's what it's about, yeah. It's just,
did we mention this before? Because that joke sounds eerily familiar.
Possibly. It might not be my joke.
I'm sure we've said it on this podcast. I'm sure we've said it. There's something about corners.
If you like your balls being delivered in your yogurt, or dipped in your yogurt, then deliver it from a different corner. Those aren't the official lyrics, I'm paraphrasing, but that's probably what it's about.
Yeah, maybe.
By the way, just never dip your testicles in anyone's yogurt. Just saying.
It renders you powerless, dear boy.
Well, it renders everyone powerless. There's no situation, I can vouch from personal experience, there's no situation where that's welcome.
Unless you just use Veet.
Well, never even then. The smell of Veet's pungent. And didn't get me started on that. It's just don't do it. It's just not pleasant. No. I've smelt Veet. I haven't used Veet, and neither has it led to me just dangling my twig and giggleberries in anyone's lunch, let alone yogurt. No, none of those things have happened. It's a bizarre twist. I'm just saying, don't do that.
That's a tight corner to fit them in as well.
Yeah,
and you'd have to be really awkward. So it'd be a really awkward position. Especially if someone's holding the yogurt in front of them with a spoon ready.
Yeah, exactly. The positioning, mechanics aside.
Do you go front or back? Either way's bad.
Well,
or maybe go from the side, looking down at them with a cheeky grin on your face.
If you find yourself stood under anyone who's hanging their testicles in front of your face and you're eating a yogurt, you've got a lot to worry about regardless of the conditions of the test. But more worryingly, I suppose, is that you wouldn't have noticed. No one can stealth teabag a yogurt in front of you. It's just not something it's not achievable. You can't do that. There are some things that are doable, and stealth teabagging is not one of them. Especially of a Muller corner, like you say, the corner with the cornery
if you tap them on
bits
the
is
shoulder,
small.
you know, if you tap them on the far shoulder from behind, so they look around.
Well, so you've gone for some kind of distraction technique.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see where you're coming from.
When they turn back, sort of thing. If you do the Grange Hill theme.
What,
I'm dipping them in like the sausage.
I'm sensing a very elaborate ruse, I have to say. So, on the chance that you're naked and shaved or veted, and you want to play a trick on someone, tap them on the shoulder and hum the Grange Hill theme, and then dip your testicles in their yogurt, hoping they have a yogurt, and hoping that you get the yogurt side. The yogurt side of the corner is slightly bigger than the sort of the crunchy side, I guess you'd call it. Nobody wants to dip anything in a crunchy side.
Well, you don't want to come up with a load of crunchy bits dangling underneath you.
Just don't do both, because if you go yogurt, then you go crunchy bits, you're going to look like a Ferrero Rocher.
And make sure you get your aim right, because you don't want to go down on the division.
No, because you could do one either side. So you could have left dip, yogurt, right dip, and you could mix the two. And I suppose that's really what a Muller corner's fundamental philosophy is, mixing the two flavours and stuff. But some of them, the little tiny balls lend themselves to that. The ones with the kind of flakes, nobody likes them ones anyway, but the ones with the kind of flavoured flakes, the banana flakes, then it's never a good idea to do any of that's a bad idea. In fact, this is an official Zapped to the Past non-recommendation. Do not menace people naked with the Grange Hill theme while presenting yourself as a Ferrero Rocher impersonator, because it's never going to end well. Never going to end
yogurt
well.
Teabagger.
Exactly, yeah. Of old York.
It sounds like a two Ronnie sketch.
Phantom York Teabagger is not something.
Phantom yogurt teabagger.
Phantom yogurt teabagger is not some teabagger. Thomas Bagger, the poor guy. He's out there somewhere. Tom, he's out there. Thomas. It's like nobody ever takes me seriously with my name. Anyway. I digress. But it's probably better than that song. I don't remember it. I don't remember the George Michael song.
I don't remember George Michael's solo output.
No, I remember his big ones. Yeah, everyone remembers them. But I don't remember that one.
He dipped him in my yogurt.
He did. That testicle dipping crazy, he did.
He was, yeah. Anyway, let's move on to albums after that teabaggery.
Teabagger, Thomas Bagger. At your service, sir. Can I help you? Yes, Thomas.
Would you like anything dipped?
I can dip left and all right.
I offer all kinds of dipping services.
Salsa dip? I can do the salsa and dip. Yes, I can.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I can do it in variations of 1/8. So you just tell me how many eighths you want dipped in.
Yes, exactly. Eighth of a dip, sir. Hold out the yogurt. Let's go.
No
there you
yogurt.
go, an 8.
I'm happy. I'm just as happy with tiramisu.
Tiramisu or any of those co-op dips that you can buy for £1.
Except the chili hummus.
Yeah,
he won't want that. No one wants that.
Terrible accident he had with that. Yeah.
Anyway, albums.
Albums. Woo.
All right. So I think this was number 1 at the end of last month. Hits for various artists. I was in for the first 2 weeks of April, and it was replaced with Street Life. 20 greatest hits from Brian Ferry and Roxy Music, which was number 1 for the rest of the month.
Did it surprise you? There's 2 things that surprised me. I like the maths of hits for in the chart for 2 weeks. I like that. Hits for 2 weeks. I don't know why it appeals to me and stuff like that. And then 20 greatest hits of Brian Ferry and Roxy Music. What surprised me about that is that there was 20. I was like, 20?
Well,
20 hits.
Actually, I've copied this out, and it's not the 20 greatest hits. It's just 20 great hits. They're that confident.
Yes, exactly. But can you? All right, name me 7.
No, I don't know any. I know.
Exactly.
I know that one which goes. I can't. I've gone completely
Slave
blank
to
on.
Love as one of his, and was that Brian Ferry? Was that Brian Ferry and Roxy Music? Was that 2 of theirs?
Working to how's it go? Oh, what's that one? I don't know. This is bad radio. Which, ironically, was what Brian Ferry and Roxy Music were a lot of the time.
Exactly. They were there for 2 weeks, though. So technically speaking, it was 10 tracks for the first week, 10 tracks the second, and done. Which I think is a bit of a push, really. Why call it Street Life? One of the songs on it must be called Street Life, I'm guessing.
Probably. It's probably one of their biggest hits that people have sat listening to this going, you don't know Street Life?
Oh, no. People get a bit evangelical about Brian Ferry. Did he do that video with the women all dressed in the dresses and the guitars?
No, that was
Brian Ferry?
No, it was Robert Palmer.
Oh, I am totally off the radar here then, because for some
you're thinking of Addicted to Love, aren't you?
I totally conflated the two. I'm trying to think what Brian Ferry is.
Brian Ferry's the one with the he sings like that.
Is he a pop singer?
Our friend Gary really liked him. He teamed up with Brian Eno for a while.
Yeah. Is this life? Yeah. Not in there either, is it? No.
He did that classic one with the with the piano. Look, it's Brian Ferry. He's a well-respected artist, and he was #1 for 2 weeks with Roxy Music, and then their great hits. Let's move on because we're just making fools of ourselves.
Not if your impressions sound a bit like Brian Ferry and Roxy Music, I'll wager. All right, fair enough. I don't know. I thought it was Robert Palmer, so I'm way off the chart here.
No, Robert Palmer is very different.
I'm going to find some Brian Ferry now. I think I know who it is in my mind. I've got a visual of him, but I can't think of what he sounds like.
I think did he do Slave to Love?
Was it Slave to Love or was that Brian Ferry? It doesn't matter. Let's just keep on trucking.
Absolutely.
Keep on trucking. Cannonball. It's a cannonball. Cannonball.
Brian Ferry, or was it Michael Cruise Ship?
Cannonball. It's a cannonball.
And as we know, sort of thing, all of with Cliff Richard and Shakin' Stevens, all of his friends are named after various boats.
Brian Ferry, yes, and of course there's David Ship, Bobby Cargo,
Michael Boat,
yeah,
Ricky Schooner.
Yeah, Ricky Schooner, and the slightly slight David Coracle, small little guy. Often found floating across small rivers.
All the members of the band were named after boats. It was part of the audition for getting in for Roxy Music.
Simon Yacht.
Anyway, new releases of note. 6th of April, Look Away by Big Country. What is it, number 18?
Look away. Good song, actually.
Yes, it is a good song. I have a bit of a soft spot for Big Country.
Yeah.
I have to say.
There's a couple of tracks. And their guitarist, of course, famous for being the guitarist from the Skids. So, in case you didn't know that.
I did not know that. My brother was quite into Big Country at the time and used to play their album, and I used to listen to that and thought it was all right. I quite like it. Scottish, aren't they? They were a Scottish band.
Yeah, absolutely Scottish. Yeah, they are.
13th of April. Now, this is quite interesting because we'll talk about this probably next week as well. But Just Say No by the Grange Hill Cast.
Of course.
Was in at number 26. Samo. I think we'll leave this because there's more to say on this in the next episode.
Just remember, you don't have to be part of a crowd. Just be who you are and say it loud.
Indeed.
Just say no. Just say no.
We'll there's more to say about that in the next episode, so we'll leave that one.
We'll just say nothing right now, but we'll say something later.
Yeah, let's just say not right now. We've got the whole world at our feet. Was the England World Cup squad 86 in at number 75.
Who was in that squad at 86? Can you remember any of the big names?
Gary Lineker.
So it was Lineker. I was wondering if it was Lineker in 86. Was it Lineker?
Brian Robson, Pete
Not
Shilton.
Brian Ferry. I think I was going to say Brian Ferry then. That's where I know him from.
Yeah, but I vaguely remember.
Who was the captain?
Brian Robson. Ray Wilkins, I think. It's that period. It's that era.
So which one of the England World Cup songs was the one that was We're on our way, we are on 22. Here, what was that one?
We're here the show of the red, white and blue.
This time, more than any other time, this time. Who was that one? That 82? That might have been 82 then.
Was it? It might have been 82. I don't know.
Who's wrong?
I honestly did. Well, it's Ron Greenwood.
Right.
He was the manager, so it probably is 82, yeah. I can't remember who the manager was for 86. I think it was Bobby Robson. Was it Bobby Robson? I think it might have been Bobby Robson by that point.
Might have been Brian Ferry.
Did his little dance. Oh, was he? Or did Bobby Robson? Bobby Robson was Italian 90. Oh, look, it's a football podcast.
Well, it was Brian Ferry.
It really wasn't. He's not going to be a football manager.
Or Robert Palmer, and I thought it was either of them two, so I was way off the radar again.
Because things only go up with, in at the same day, at number 98 was Snooker Loopy by the Matchroom Mob with Chaz and Dave.
Is there a world where you're happy with being in the chart as an entry point at 98?
Yeah, if you have Chaz and Dave.
It's a long way from number one, isn't it?
It's as far as you can be and be recognised, apart from one more. So it only goes up to 99.
You know exactly how that song is going to be. You know it. It's Chaz and Dave.
Snooker, Loopy, nuts are we are him and him and me. It's
exactly.
That one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They did that. Was it on the back of Big Break? It's only a game, sport.
Yeah, because
That one.
yeah, it was that was Chas and Dave as well, wasn't it? Very
think it might have
snooker-oriented
been.
songs. But their album was called "We Love Snooker" and we're going to sing about it.
So the clue was in the title.
Yeah, exactly.
with guest vocalist Brian Ferry.
And strangely enough, they're called Chas and Dave, but their surnames are Snooker and Q. So that was their original duo name, but nobody would book them under that name.
Dave Snooker and Chaz Q.
Yeah, but they were going under Snooker and Q, Snooker and
the wrong way
Q.
round.
I like to play snooker, and he likes to Q. No, it was Q with a Q. It was one likes to play snooker, the other just likes to stand around waiting for things.
Waiting to play snooker. I don't like to play. I just put my 20 pence down on the side of the table, but I never actually play.
So exactly, there were 20 pence. Where have you been? What planet is 20 pence?
1986.
20 pence. Did they have 20p coins then? Might have done. It doesn't matter. Yes,
That
so
was
that's
2
exactly
pence.
how it worked. That's how they became famous. They were never going to make it as that duo, so that's why Chas and Dave was born. If you don't believe me, I'm going to rewrite Wikipedia in about 2 minutes. Check it out on Wikipedia.
I'll be
We're
joining you.
snooker and Q. I like to play snooker. All he does is Q. That's because he can't play. He can't. He's crap. He can't even hold the sticks.
He's had those 2 10 pence pieces for 10 years. He's never used them.
The whole act revolves around the fact that they can't use the word cue as a snooker cue because it would throw their act out. So they have to say sticks, pointers. Pass us the long wooden sticky stick, the staff.
Passes the snooker stick.
Passes that snooker staff. I'm gonna chalk the end of it. The mysterious chalking of the cue. I was never a Chas and Dave fan anyway. I certainly didn't like them. I'd have preferred them if they'd have been snooker and cue. It would have made more sense to me. But
Would have done.
based on their relative skill at snooker. But there you go.
Anyway, shut up about Chaz and Dave.
I wasn't talking about them. Snooker
You're
and
talking about
Q.
snooker
Come
and
on.
Q.
Exactly.
20th of April. This title is now very apt. It's Live to Tell.
Good track by Madonna, that actually.
Number 10. In at number 10, yeah. Live to Tell by Madonna. It is a good track. Good build up, that one. Nice chorus. Nice swell.
Good
I always
swelling.
thought.
I'm not sure which album that's off, but it's a good. Or is that the album? No, good. I can't remember which album that's from.
I don't know. Is it True Blue?
It must be actually. Yes, that sounds True Bluey. It's not off any of the others. I don't remember.
Maybe. Number 23 was Lessons in Love by Level 42.
Oh, Level 42. Is there anyone's thumbs more bass capable than his? That guy can thumb his way out of any situation, can't he? He's the thummiest thummer of the thummerdom. I mean, whether you like Level 42 or not, that guy can thumb a mean thumb.
He can. His hand was insured for a lot of money, wasn't it? His
It was,
thumb
yeah.
and hand.
Well, that's because prior to his career as a bass player in Level 42, he was actually a professional pin pusher. You could hire him just to come round and push pins into your walls. That guy's thumbs are powerful. He doesn't need a nail gun. He could just literally push a nail into a solid brick. Very talented guy.
Yeah.
It was obvious he was going to turn that talent into a unique bass playing ability. Yeah.
And he did.
What is his name? What is his name? Mark?
Level 42. Mark something or other. It's not Mark Knopfler. He's Dire Straits. It's Mark something.
I wonder
Mark
why Level
Thummy.
42? What was all that about, Level 42? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it's as far as he could get in Zoids.
Did you like Level 42 as a band?
No, they were part of that blandcore movement that I hated of all those bands like Curiosity Killed the Cat and who was the other ones? The one that had the vocalist.
Blandcore.
Yeah, but that's what I call them. Blandcore bands. There were loads of them from about mid to late 80s. There was
and I agree.
One with a Roland guy in.
Roland Giff.
Yeah.
Fine Young Cannibals.
Fine Young Cannibals. Them. Johnny Hates Jazz were another one.
Yeah, I
Garbage.
totally agree with you. I think of Level 42 and I think of that red. That was UB40 though.
That's UB40.
Tell you, my radar is off today.
That's how much I hate Level 42 that they make me think of UB40.
Well, to be fair, UB40, Level 42, there are only two more. So they were just two better in the Level 42 is about their average chart position apart from that 23.
Yeah. Anyway, number 29 was A Question of Lust by Depeche Mode. That's a good song.
Which album is that off? 86 must be
It's probably the one we had on last time. Black Celebration, I'd have thought.
Yeah, good album. And Depeche, remember Depeche Mode? Good.
It's Depeche Mode. I'm not listening. I'm not from France.
It's Depeche, but okay.
Depeche. It's not Depeche Mode.
It's Depeche Mode. It is. That's what. Anyway, never mind that.
Anyway, number 41. I thought this went in higher, but this will climb, I believe. Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel.
Yeah, that's the one with the fancy animated video in it.
It is a great video, isn't it? It's a good song.
Yeah.
This. I do like Peter Gabriel's early solo stuff. I think it's very good.
Yeah, I remember that one and the other one that's exactly like it, but I don't remember much more of the stuff that he did.
Big Train.
Steam, is it? That he did as well.
Big Train, wasn't it? Big. I'm on a way up, I'm making it. Big,
Yeah.
that one.
That's I'm singing Sledgehammer.
You are. I'm sure it was big. Not Big Train. That's a show. Big something.
Big.
Oh, but actually, the reason I'm thinking of that is because the next track was in at number 99, pipping Snooker Loopy by one point, was the Big Trip to Mexico from the Scotland World Cup squad.
Oh my gosh.
I have no idea what that is, but I thought I'd put it in because I've mentioned the England one.
I want to listen to that because they'd have crashed out of that World Cup, I think. I don't think they got too far in, did they, if I remember rightly?
I think they got knocked out in the group stages, probably.
Yeah, so their big trip to Mexico was kind of a short trip to Mexico, but I don't remember that at all. But I didn't know that we had sort of, region, country. I suppose it's a separate country, so let's, a different. Did Wales have were Wales even at that? Doesn't matter.
No, I don't think Wales were at the Euros 4 years ago, whenever, and that was their first time. I believe that was their first time at a major competition in like 58 years or something. I was reading. So it's been a while.
Okay.
They did well though. They got to semi-finals 4 years ago. So good crowd.
Okay.
27th of April. Speak of the Devil and He Shall Appear. Addicted to Love by Robert Palmer.
Oh, there he is. You see, that's probably why I thought of it, because he was around at that time.
Bobby to his friends. Bobby Palmer.
Oh, Bob Palmer, yeah. Bob
Palmer. He was good at card tricks. That's he could Palmer mean ham.
Well, I think the interesting aside.
That's number 87 though. That song was massive. That must be re-released.
What I was about to say is that not content with the chart, what we've got to think of in 1986, it's the beginnings of MTV, innit? And that video for Addicted to Love was really hammered on MTV Europe.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So and I mean, even I don't really remember the song. I remember the video more than the song, but it was really hammered and played. And I think even Top of the Pops had started to play videos at this point in the UK. So it's still got a bit of an out. It's got a bit of an out in there, and it's not what you call it. I could think the video itself was directed by quite kind of a famous not an art director, but an artist. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a bit nowadays classed as a bit cheesy, wasn't it? But back then it was quite the thing. So
yeah,
not
it's
a great song though.
These days.
I never dug it. I never dug it that much. It was all right.
Albums, new releases in the albums charts. On the 6th of April, we had Parade, Prince and the Revolution.
Prince and the Revolution. Good album, that is.
More up your alley than mine, I believe.
That's a good album. Not his greatest album, because the greatest album that Prince released was the Greatest Hits of Prince, which is brilliant in all of its volumes.
But I thought it was the Greatest Hits of Roxy Music.
Walter Raleigh.
He did a load of covers.
Parade's got some good tracks in it, though. We featured a track in the chart from this album last week, as I believe.
Mm-hmm, we did.
Listen to last week's podcast, you'll hear all about it. Good album.
Or
good
2 weeks ago. In at number 16 was Rendezvous by Yommi Yell Ya.
Oh, good old Yommi Yell Ya, JMJ, the classic.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very influential album, Rendezvous.
Yeah, the problem I have with Yommi Yell Ya tracks is that I know the tracks, but I couldn't tell you the name of any of them. So I know all the classics because obviously I've watched the live stuff and I've listened to them and I've heard them so many times in so many C64 games and demos and stuff. But I'm damned if I could tell you which one was Oxygen and which one was this and which one was Magnetic Fields and which one was that. I only want to know is Magnetic Fields 3, is it, for Ya Kung Fu, which we'll talk about, but I could be wrong on that. I don't know the titles of any of them, but I could hum you loads of them.
In all fairness, you just named pretty much all of them because you've got a reasonable chance of getting it right because most of them albums have got Rendezvous parts 1 to 4. Magnetic Fields part 1 to... So it's which part of it is.
Can you remember how disappointing Waiting for Cousteau was?
Do you know, I was thinking about that the other day because I've had a bit of a re-listen to the entire Jean-Michel Jarre back catalogue because he released a new album, well, 2 new albums, not that long ago, maybe a year ago now, maybe a year and a half ago, but 2 new albums, one of which was an original stuff of his, and then there was a lot of cooperative tracks he did. He did one with the Pet Shop Boys, for example, and it's quite good. Brick England, it's quite a good track. So I'd definitely track down those albums. There's new ones, they're good. So I thought I'd listen to the back catalogue, and the live albums are astonishing, amazing. You know, the Houston, live in Houston, Docklands is amazing. They're all live. The China one was never my favourite, but it's an amazing live album. Live, great. The actual studio albums, they're actually very short, a lot shorter than I remembered them. And all of us remember the Magnetic Fields, the Rendezvous, the Zulux, and some of those albums have got classic tracks on we'll remember to this day. Then there's Waiting for Cousteau. That moment when Waiting for Cousteau arrived, because I remember we've got a co-friend who was heavily into Jean-Michel Jarre, Yomi Yaya.
I remember him getting this.
And he got this, and he was positively wetting his pants with excitement. Remember the cover, the blue cover with the big ear, the yellow ear on it? And he whacked it into the CD player, which he'd spent some serious cash on by this point, I think, somehow. I think it was it might have been a tape deck at his house, but I think it was a CD player. Remember, I was all sat in his bedroom. I remember it, listening to it and going, this is crap.
Bloop, 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 bloop.
And we were so disappointed.
How long did it go for? Like 40 minutes or something,
45 minutes of blippy bloppy, and then there's that one track at the end, which was the rumba. Do, 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 do. We're like, oh, this is all right. I think that's off that album. I could be wrong. Like you say, they all kind of blur. But that's the bit I remember is that it wasn't so much, because I kind of, by this point, was listening to a lot of metal, so I was kind of into it and not into it. I still like my synth stuff, but watching Gary's tearful face as he realised how much of a rip-off he'd just had, spending hard-earned cash on that dog egg. That's a moment I cherish now to this day, actually, thinking about it.
Whenever I'm feeling blue, I think of Gary and Waiting for Cousteau.
Just remember sitting in his bedroom, him excitedly putting that on. It might have even been in his lounge, actually, because I remember he had that. We're going back to times for people that are listening to this thinking, what are we talking about? You didn't always have CD players in your bedroom back in the mid-early 80s. They were expensive items. They were often household purchases. We had one in our lounge. I was lucky enough to be working at that time, so I think I'd bought one on Mitchell's Skimuli for a month when I was in debt for it. But I'm not sure. I think later down the line we all ended up with them, but I think Gary at that point, I'm not sure if he had one in his bedroom or he taped it, or he had. We'd gone down to his lounge where there was quite a nice stereo that his mum and dad had purchased, or his mum maybe, can't remember. But it might have been listening to it on this Panasonic multi-stacking system. He had to have a stacking system, remember back then. So it was like a record player at the top, then a tuner, then a CD player, then a tape player, and all these items stacked on top of one another. So we might have been listening to it in his lounge. It wouldn't have altered the joy of discontent that I felt looking at Gary and watching his, because he'd been on about this for months, watching him crack as that played, and he's seeing the veneer of joy just go just crack like a badly made piece of glass. What a tragedy! Rendezvous good though.
Yeah, Rendezvous great. But Waiting for Cousteau is garbage.
Rendezvous is the do 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 do. I think that's Rendezvous. So that's what everyone knows.
That's what I mean. I could hum that tune for you. I couldn't tell you which track it was.
But less so the one at the beginning of it goes an elephant being strangled.
You just cut out on my end. Whatever noise you just made just killed the internet. Whether that recorded or not, I have no idea. Because all I heard from the beginning of that was no more.
Yeah.
You've done it again. You cut out again.
It records my end. It's too much for your sound system to cope with. It's so accurate. Anyway, that's waxed very lyrical on Jean-Michel Jarre. I like him a lot. I like Jean-Michel Jarre, and he's heavily influential on many of the Sid musicians that we revere, the Matt Galways, the Rob Hubbards. I think at least all of them have had a go at Jean-Michel Jarre track at one time or another. So
they have. We'll speak about one of those this very recording. No, next week actually. Right, 13th of April, Turbo by Judas Priest.
Oh, I like Judas Priest.
Are you a Judas Priest fan? I never knew that. Twin Whitley guitars, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but if you like Iron Maiden, then you should listen to Judas Priest, because Iron Maiden, I like the Judas Priest copy, really. Very controversial to say that, but they are. And also, I also like Halloween, which are an Iron Maiden copy. So if you want to go back to the root, to the stem, then it's Judas Priest. Really.
Guitars.
Yeah, it's Judas Priest. They do it. Yeah. Some of their tracks are great. So I'm not so into the studded leather underpants and and all the Judas Priest iconography.
That's the part I am into.
Well, you wear them inside out just for shits and giggles.
On the inside, of course.
Yeah. Well, I've got studded leather socks. That's as far as I'll go.
It's the only way to live.
And I do wear power leather wristbands, which I tell you what, you'd be surprised how often you need leather gauntlets in this crazy COVID world.
Don't wear them for tennis though, because you'd strip the skin from your forehead quite quickly.
Yes,
and then that would be bad.
They're not tennis friendly. They're not generally friendly items. Wearing any kind of gauntlet if you're going to go into a sport, unless it's required. So,
like rollerball.
Don't do rollerball with that. Yeah, don't do that. Yeah.
Well, that requires gauntlets. Yes, you have spiked gloves in that.
Yeah, true. And yes.
20th of April. We've already spoken about this. It was Brian Ferry and Roxy Music were straight in at number 1 on 20th of April. So there you go. They were straight in. Boom.
Goodness,
everyone
they were popular.
Everyone liked a bit of Ferry.
Everyone likes at least one track off that great hit.
Yeah, number 10. I was weird. I found it strange that this came in Victoria Land by the Cocteau Twins.
Number 10 in the UK chart is. That's weird, isn't it?
I know. If you like your sort of stuff, you probably like the Cocteau Twins. They're very ethereal, aren't they?
Yeah,
very,
people who sing mostly in vowels. Yeah, generally.
Barely vowels.
Well, yeah, not even that really, is it? It's kind of loose sounds.
It was a double bill of kind of weirdness because at number 13 we had Tinderbox from Susie and the Banshees straight in.
Right, yeah. Strange old album.
What was the track? What was their popular one? We said it. We couldn't remember it the other week. It was
so popular. We've forgotten it again. It was the Beatles cover that they did.
Miss something? No, but it was begins with a P, doesn't it?
Dear Prudence.
Dear Prudence, that's it.
Which is a Beatles cover that they did. Yeah.
I was going to say Miss Peacock.
I think Dear Prudence is off the White Album by the Beatles, I think. But...
All right, yeah, Miss Peacock and it's Are You Being Served, which is a completely different thing.
Oh, the Cluedo album they did, where you have to guess who killed the songs at the end.
Invisible Silence by The Art of Noise was in at number 18.
Well, we know who that was, really. So The Art of Noise is Mr. Horn, yes, and co.
In at number 73 is Falco 3 by Falco. Now, the reason I included this sort of thing, obviously Rock Me Amadeus, but Falco 3 implies there's a Falco 2 and a Falco 1.
Maybe there is.
Which I find quite incredible, because I just thought it was a one-hit wonder with Rock Me Amadeus.
Well, they're not describing the albums, they're describing the people who were at the front man. It's just version 3 of Falco.
Or maybe they're talking about the Luck Dragon from Neverending Story.
Well, it's just there's 2 previous Falcos who died in mysterious circumstances, so here's Falco 3.
One choked on someone else's own vomit. Someone else's vomit.
Exactly. And he just exploded on stage, yeah. So
quick,
this is Falco 3.
Falco 3.
It's like the Dread Pirate Roberts. They just take over the role of Falco, and then everyone calls him Falco, and then by the end of it, he's Falco. And then, no, unless they meet a mysterious end.
How much better would that have all been if it was sang by the dragon from Neverending Story, if that was Falco?
That would be weird. That giant thing that he rides on in the...
Yeah, Falco. It's the Luck Dragon.
You know too much about that twee little film. With its the only good thing about that film was watching that horse drown. And that cheer, I cheer when that happens.
This podcast is over.
When that happens, I cheer. I let out an almighty cheer. Yes,
Oi,
finally.
You can't talk about the swamp of despair in Atreyu. I'm not having it. Do you know? Ironically, at Christmas time, Neverending Story.
There's no need
was
to be
on.
afraid.
There's no need to be afraid. But Neverending Story was on, but it got cancelled, and I've never seen. I mean, I have, but there was genuine anger on Twitter that the BBC had cancelled. Yeah, they're like, "Thanks for ruining my afternoon, BBC."
Oh, really? For that?
Of it. Yeah,
goodness me!
There were people were up in arms.
Why do people like that film so much? It's
because it's good.
It's not good. It's not.
It is. I watched it recently. It is good. I actually, when it wasn't on, I sourced it and watched it anyway in its place at that time, because I was going to watch it anyway. It was part of my Christmas viewing. I had it ringed in the Radio Times. I had to watch it. I'm sorry. It's what I do.
I don't like the film, but I do like the fact that they drown a horse in quicksand. Because I don't like horses. It pleases me to watch it. I like it. I like that. I think more horses should be drowned in quicksand, but that's just me.
Graham does not speak for this podcast. He speaks for one half of it, but not this half.
It's controversial, I know. But you know what? If you're going to drown an animal in quicksand, make it a horse. I've seen it happen in movies. It's not painful for them. It's almost enjoyable.
I'm so glad you said in movies then, not in real life.
No.
Because that would be traumatic.
As far as I'm aware, I've not witnessed it in real life. But certainly in that film, I've seen it.
But years of therapy are getting me closer to understand what I really saw that time.
Yeah, after years, I think it was. I'm not sure it was a horse. It kind of had hands and feet and a human head. When I think about it. So,
but in my head, it's made of wicker.
And he was called Horse. But anyway,
what, Richard Harris?
A man called Horse. Yeah, Good old
Anyway,
Richard Harris. Bless
just to
him.
wrap up.
Bless him.
Wrap up the music section. 27th of April, there was Rapture was released by Anita Baker.
Who is Anita Baker?
Isn't Anita Baker...
Don't say it's Carol Baker's sister. Carol Baker's sister, you know,
No,
down the road.
Have I got this horribly wrong sort of thing? But isn't... Oh, I'm thinking of the wrong person.
See,
Ignore
we've both
it.
done it now. You're
We've
thinking
both
of
done it, sort of thing.
Debbie
I was
Harry,
thinking
weren't you?
No, I was thinking of Anita Dobson.
Oh, God. That's
I thought it
Brian
was her
May's
album.
wife.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought this was the
Goodness me.
EastEnders theme. But anyway, Rapture by Anita Baker was released for number 53. Whoever
Right.
Anita Baker is, sure, she's great. But I have nothing more to say on that because I've got the wrong person.
And I don't think it's a cover of the Debbie Harry Blondie song of Rapture. I hope it's
Probably not.
because it's not the
There we
greatest
go.
Blondie song.
So randomness at the end there because we get the wrong person, or I did, but there you go. Hey ho. Right, that's your music section. What do we have? Brian Boats, dipping yogurts, Big Country, Just Say No, football songs, and snooker and Q. I think are the things to take
Snooker
away
and
from
Q.
this section. We'll be away now for a short break. Listen to another advert. We'll be back after that. See you soon.
Enjoy the festival.
No.
Shout out to our sponsor davidhearnwriter.com, where you'll find bargain books and audiobooks. Dave's next book, Escape from the Commodore 64, sees someone trapped inside their bread bin. They have to complete one of the games they're stuck in to escape. Imagine finding yourself as a mole trapped in a collect-em-up platform game, dodging nonsensical sprites just to stay alive. Book, ebook, and audiobook all coming out before Christmas. Visit davidhearnwriter.com to find out more. Dave's podcast pick is Law of the West. He considered it one of the finest examples of interactive fiction ever. Yeehaw!
All right, welcome back. That was the music. We've got our last section of games for this episode. We've got 4 more to come up before we look at a few Crapverts. So what have we got? Our first game. Graham, tell us all about Rock and Wrestle, or Bop and Wrestle as it's known in certain parts of the world.
Yeah.
Whatever you know it as. It's Rock and Wrestle. Whatever.
It was Rock and Wrestle to me.
It was to me too.
I remember liking this game back in the day. So you're probably going to get a flavour for where this is going to go. I did like it a lot back then. There are bits that have... This is a game that feels like it's got bits missing. So it has all the trappings of something that could have been quite good, but kind of misses the mark here and there. So back in the day when I played this quite a lot, I was willing to let some of those things go. On revisit, so it's a wrestling game, essentially, Rock and Wrestle. You've got various characters of wrestling. You can play it 2-player or 1 player. You have to fight your way, wrestle your way through the opponents, and sort of a bit like the boxing games that we played, same kind of logic really. So you get some character wrestlers that you have to play. There's a variety of moves you can attempt, for want of a better description here. And we'll come back to the controls in a moment, but there's a variety of moves you can attempt, and there's sort of reasonably big sprites. The game is principally in a wrestling ring, seen from kind of a sort of slightly elevated angle, so you can see both wrestlers. They're quite big sprites on the screen. There's not a lot more to it than that, because I think all of the memory for the C64 is taken up in principally everything to do with that. So the animation of the sprites there's quite a lot of it, in the sense that they run backwards and forwards or up and down. You can grab and pick them up, throw them, and do a few wrestling moves. And the idea is you do enough of those to render your opponent, I say unconscious, but get a count of 3, you win, and then you work your way up. Okay, that's the game. So this is, I think, made by, or at least kind of a follow-on almost from the way the Exploding Fist.
It is. It's the same people. It's Greg Barnett again, I think. That's where I looked.
And you can kind of see where they were heading with it. You can kind of see the ambition in there. 2-player wrestling game, pull off the moves, sampled sound again in here like it was in Way of the Exploding Fist. Quite big sprites, but like Way of the Exploding Fist in theme. But the reality is that this isn't nearly as good as that for many reasons. The sound isn't as good. The playability isn't there. The players aren't very interesting. The difficulty is very hard. It seems impossible to make the moves happen in a way that makes you feel like you're in control of the wrestler you're playing. I didn't get what I needed to do to pull off some of the more complex moves that I became a victim of very quickly. At one point I couldn't get up when I was thrown on the floor, so I just spent a lot of the first few levels just laying there. So worst wrestling match ever. I just got thrown down once and that was it. I'm not bothering. I'm like, I know what, this is too tough. So I found it stupidly hard. I couldn't do any of the moves and none of them made sense. And I looked up the instructions and looked up that and it still didn't make any sense. I couldn't get it to play. Now I was playing this, bear in mind, I played this on a C64 Maxi with an actual joystick. So I loaded it in, and played it on as authentic a rendition of a C64 as I could get, I still couldn't make it work properly for me. So I just found it that I think you needed to be into wrestling to really get into it anyway, and understand the kind of logic of the game even back then. And you needed to go with the game logic and the controls, and you needed to really hack at it to kind of get it to do anything. And eventually you might find a way through it. But for me, the main event of this game for me was a bit of a letdown. Didn't feel like, on reflection, on replay, that I really was in control of much. And I didn't get a lot from it. And the sounds in the end were just kind of arbitrary 2-bit screams of horror that didn't really equate to anything like Way of the Exploding Fist. I could see what they tried. I mean, it might even be the same engine, maybe behind the scenes, I don't know. But it was just a big misfire. And it didn't capture any of the razzmatazz of the wrestling. Even back then, maybe not British wrestling, but even then, the wrestling still had just having camera flashes in the background and crowd sounds and just stuff that made it feel like you wasn't just in a wrestling ring in some warehouse at the bottom of an industrial estate, just wrestling for your life in some weird game you found yourself trapped in because, you stole someone's pigeons or some. That's actually more game logic than I'm applying to it because I couldn't think of a reason why I would be there. But did you like, on reflection, Rock and Wrestle? I think I've actually played this with you back in the day, and I don't remember us liking it much then.
No, it's too awkward. It's way too awkward. And my sort of notes to start off with, which is what it took me a while to realise they were saying 1, 2, 3 on the count. And I didn't like the fact that it was just the Commodore font just popping up saying 1, 2, 3. I thought it was a bit cheap.
Warning sign.
That. Yeah, this is the next follow. I know we thought it was Fighting Warrior, but I don't think that was by the same people. But you could see that there was probably some shared tech there with the sprites and everything. But this is the next one from those guys, and as far as I'm aware. And it's just not very good. For me, it's too ambitious. The thing with Exploding Fist was that because it was on a classic 2D fighting plane, the 16 moves worked because it transponded quite well to, moving in those directions on a 2D plane. It worked. You put that into 3D and you try and have, I think it's 24 moves that are in this. Only 4 that are available at any one moment. It's so awkward to sort of get them, you can grab hold and then you kind of jiggle around a little bit and you can pick them up and then you might spin them. You bounce off ropes. It's just a mess. I just thought it was a real mess, and considering the smoothness of the animation in Way of the Exploding Fist, for a lot of this, it's two-frame animation. It's really jerky and staccato, and I just didn't like it. This for me was a misfire. It was a bad choice for a follow-up as to do next. I can see why they kind of want, let's do wrestling, let's do something a bit more adventurous, but this was pushing up against really what probably the C64 could do, what they knew what to do with it technically at that time, and it's just a mess, and it doesn't control well. Having to waggle to get up off the canvas is, am I going to get up, am I not? The strength bars seem to have no actual meaning or
it was arbitrary,
or actually tie into what was going on screen, because you could get them down quite low and then they would still just knock you out, with one, and it was, I didn't get on with this. I didn't like it. I do remember, as I think we did give it a go back then, but I don't think we liked it. It's not one I remember that would be on a rotation of ours, shall we say. No. And that's sort of a shame. This could have been fun, and it looked like it was going to be fun. And also, when it came down to it, the wrestlers were just same wrestlers with just different coloured leotard and different head. Yeah. I didn't notice there was no kind of personality to them or difference in style or moves or anything. It was just a bit, No, this was a misfire for me. I didn't enjoy it at all. No.
I completely agree. Yeah. Tied into probably more an American tradition of wrestling, because back in 1986, I don't think there was a lot of exposure to US wrestling in the UK at that time. It wasn't quite on Sky. Sky wasn't quite as big then. Well, at least it wasn't as big in terms of holding the WWF, WWE license.
I didn't have any clue who Hulk Hogan was in Rocky 3.
Well, exactly. So it didn't, and I think in the US maybe it had more legs because it was a wrestling game and wrestling was huge there and has been. For us, if it didn't have Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks in it, I don't know who the hell they were anyway. And it didn't have any of those UK, and thankfully it didn't have any of those UK wrestlers in it.
It didn't have anybody, did it? Gorgeous Greg, I think you played it,
yeah? And just, they tried a thing, didn't quite work. It was just a bit of a misfire. What a shame, like you say.
Yeah. It is a bit of a shame. Never mind.
24 moves. Goodness me.
Maybe they'll come back with Fist 2 and make good on that.
Fist 2 tournament. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
It's better than Fist Plus, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Shouldn't really have a lot of games starting with the word fist. It's just, generally speaking, it's just don't.
Unless they should all start Fisto.
Fisto from, it should have.
From He-Man.
From He-Man, yeah.
He should be the star of all of them. Exploding Fisto.
I'm pretty sure that's a movie, but not one I want to see anytime soon.
What you got there? This is my exploding fisto.
Oh, my shiny glowing fist. Anyway.
Oh, we've traversed again.
We have. We've digressed. But that's what Rock and Wrestle does to you. Boring old game. Don't play it. Don't wait around for wrestling games to get any better either.
No, let's move on. To our next game. Oh, God. So, another Hubbard tune.
Yeah.
But a bad one. I'm going to be honest here. This is terrible. Gerry the Germ. Gerry the Germ was our next release. This doesn't get a good review. And with good cause. It's also $7.95. I thought this was a budget release.
I did. Was it maybe it released later as a budget release? Was it?
I don't know. This has all the hallmarks of a budget release. It surely does. This has the whiff of $1.99.
You're not kidding.
Newsagents about it.
The reason why this game's set in a toilet.
Oh yeah. So Gerry the Germ. What the hell is this game? It's a series of mini games, series of small mini games that are barely games. You play a germ, I think. Because you're just this great green thing. And the three that I managed to sort of play, the first one had these floating faces, and I think you're in the lungs, and every now and again, a canister of oxygen would appear, which you had to kind of dodge the faces and grab.
Correct.
For whatever. The second one, I never got any further. I kept getting hit, and then I kept getting hit, and then I would end up in the bowels, where you were rowing a boat, where you had to pick up a piece of toilet roll, avoid a bird, and click on the fire button to stop a bull that was swimming in the bowels from hitting you.
We've all been there.
What the hell am I playing? There's bizarre, and then there's pure bizarro nonsense.
Yeah.
And this is crossed over into just nonsense.
Yeah.
The third one, there was some kind of kidney bean thing that you had to collect that would appear randomly in parts of the screen, and if you didn't, you got hit, you were back in the bowels. This rubbish.
Yep.
It's just generally dreadful, this game. My final comment was a crap game about crap.
Yeah.
I think that kind of sums this up, and I've noted what's worse is that the Hubbard soundtrack, which we have often said elevates a game, is just annoying and quite turgid in this. I found these tunes. I'd never liked the Gerry the Germ soundtrack. I know some people have a bit of affinity for them because they're kind of bouncy and thing on a springish. No, they're rubbish. I don't like them. I don't like anything about this game. It's a bad game. I never liked it, and I came back to it with fresh eyes. Like, you know what? I'll give it a go. No, rubbish, crap. Don't know. Did you like it?
No, of course I didn't. Goodness me. The idea of the game is that you need to obtain your stink diploma from the Institute of Infectology because you failed to get one. The only stink diploma is this game. No, if you paid $7.95, you've just earned yourself a stink diploma and a bad one. It was
absolutely this game has stink palmed you.
It has massively. So you are literally diphtheria, one lick away from diphtheria in a cream cake. It just stinks. This game. It's so apt. Let's just elide the ridiculous price tag for a moment and the fact that this is a conversion from other formats, from Spectrum and other games. Let's elide all of that. This game is stupid. It is stupid. So your idea is you've got to infect a person by infecting various parts of the body in those levels you were in. So lungs, kidney, stomach, pancreas, heart, and all. And in order to do that, you have to try and bypass the most annoying, stupid game mechanics of all time. So like you said, a spray can appears. You've got to avoid the dancing faces, like there are in lungs or whatever it was. And anyway, it doesn't matter.
I have them in mind.
I spent more time in the toilet rowing a boat and throwing toilet roll at a tap. And that's actually what I went and did in real. So this game actually made me just get in a boat, go to the Limay River, and I just started throwing toilet roll at people. And, I turned into a monkey for an afternoon just flicking poo. Because this game just makes you into that. It's just it's stupidly hard. To the point where it's frustrating. You can't die in this game. Nothing kills you, really. You just end up going back to the toilet. It just sends you to the toilet, which reminds me of that time when you sent that guy to the toilet at that barbecue party that we were at, when he was really annoying. And you just kept telling him he needed the toilet. In the end, he did. It reminded me of that. This game just sent me to the toilet. As weird as that sounds, it was and okay. So graphics, everything else, and it just didn't. They were graphics were.
I didn't know what I was doing in that bowel section because I kept sending the toilet roll back up to clog the tap, and then it would go, and then the bowels would drain so slowly, and then the toilet roll would drop down, and every drop that dropped out just put it back up to where it was. Like I couldn't make any progress.
Yeah, the idea is you're meant to get the water filled up so you can actually go to the top of that, I think. I don't know. I didn't spend a lot of time. I flitted between those two areas. I seemed to die, go back to the first level I was on.
I thought you're supposed to drain the bowels.
I don't know. Then I went back to this other level and tried to get a spray can and just flitted between the two. I YouTubed the other levels to see what they were like. I didn't get very far in the game to look at, so I just got a quick YouTube to see and they were all the same stupid logic and nonsense. So graphics in this game are okay for this type of thing. There's nothing special about them. They're just okay. Medium res sprites that bop about. The levels look all right, but it's stupidly difficult. Prevents you from enjoying it, and it isn't Rob Hubbard's finest hour with the music. It's twee. It's annoying. There are better in-game music in it, and as a theme of tunes, they are of a good theme. They are nothing to do with a dancing germ trying to infect a human being to death, though. Which tells you really, because if you think of the way Rob Hubbard tends to score the games, he tends to go for something that at least has a representation of the game. Zoids is big monsters, and we've seen that with other games of that type. If it's not doing a straight, arcade sound conversion, generally it'll find a theme for the game and they'll construct sort of sounds and a thematic around that. So this, I think, is music that he had in the background that he'd probably never meant to really release. Then they came to him and said, we've got this game, Gerry the Germ, and he looked at it and said, that game stinks more than a sewer. Have this piece of music that I hate. And he got paid for it. And I think that's as much due care and attention as you could say. I don't know what Rob Hubbard feels about the Gerry the Germ music. I have a funny feeling it's not one that he mentions. He talks about the music, when I met him, he talks about the music war a lot and stuff and other stuff. He never mentioned Gerry the Germ. I suspect it's probably something he's forgotten he did. Well, exactly. And because he didn't mention it, I awarded him an honorary stink diploma because I felt like, no, I didn't really. No, just forget this game exists.
Did you stink palm him?
No, I wouldn't do that. No. But do you know what? Forget this game exists, and you're not going to be going far wrong in life because it's a shame. It's a shame because the music does have it's just the wrong music in the wrong game. I think in the right game, with a good game, this music might have felt better. Because this game's crap, it makes there's no saving that game from anything other than it being annoying crap. And the music is by association guilty. So, unfortunately, not for me. Get lost, bloody Gerry the Germ, you piece of crap.
Yeah, a bad game. A bad game, crap game about crap.
Yep.
I think that sums it up right there. Right, so let's move on. Come on, let's flush that one down the loo.
Yep.
And move on.
Whoosh, down the bog it goes.
Mm-hmm. So our next one, our penultimate game. Is this our penultimate game? This is our penultimate game. This is Law of the West. And next one from Accolade.
It is Accolade, yeah.
Accolade, yeah. So it's the one following it on from Hardball, which we talked about. Law of the West. Graham, tell us all about the Law of the West.
So you're essentially a sheriff in a western town, and the game's it's quite an unusual game, Law of the West, and I had not come across it before to play it, so I came at this from quite a fresh perspective. No, I hadn't. So the entirety of the game is in a kind of a small western, I want to use the term western, but is it frontier town or western town?
It's a western town,
and you're the town sheriff, and the scenes are kind of played from your kind of sheriff, kind of gunslinger view. It's hard to describe the view, but the scenes are kind of played out with your kind of hand ready to shoot and ready to draw your weapon and shoot. And
the camera's just behind your hip, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's just behind your hip, and the characters appear in the screen, and you can have a dialogue with them. You don't have to just shoot them arbitrarily. You don't have to shoot anybody. The idea of the game is that you can have discussions with these different characters, and there's actually an adventure in there, so you can sort of figure out your way through the adventure, and you get a selection of responses. The actual dialogue system is similar to something like Mass Effect, where you have presented with options to a response. So they say something a bit similar in some ways as well to the LucasArts later games, the Scrum games. So similar to that kind of idea. And if you get the notion that this conversation's going to go south at some point, you can just pull out your weapon and have a shootout. Sometimes the shootout can happen because the character responses might lead you down that road, and you get crosshairs appears, and there's quite a nice animation when he pulls out the gun, and you can just either shoot them down or you have a bit of a shootout. And if you get shot, you don't die, you black out, you get the doctor out, and then you have to go back through the sort of iterations and stuff like that. So goal of the game, I think, is to make it alive to the end of a day, to the end of a full day with all of these encounters happening. And if you wanted to, you could just gun down all the characters in there, but you wouldn't get a good score in the game. The idea of the game is to try and figure out the little clues that people say and try and make something of that. And you know what? I really liked this game. I thought it was really unusual. It came at me completely. Now, bear in mind that my previous experience with the Wild West games has not been great, which was jumping over horses and shooting at things. So this totally threw me.
Don't forget shooting ducks.
And shooting them annoying ducks, I'm annoying with that horrific sound animation. This was such a refreshing difference in the way it looked, the way it played. It made me laugh the way some of the characters kind of shuffle in. It has a LucasArts humour about it, even though it's not LucasArts. There's elements to it like that. And there's a genus of that kind of not point and click adventure, but point and click at the text adventure and choose your responses carefully. So it had a kind of Monkey Island, Maniac Mansion, heritage vibe about it, even though I think it might predate those. But it had that vibe. It's all controlled nice and easy from the joystick. Once you draw your weapon, you get a crosshair, you can target the people to shoot and do all of that. I think I shot more people than I questioned, which is not a great sheriff, really. But I really, really enjoyed my time with this game. I think it benefited from it being on a disc, so it was benefited from being on a fast loader. I don't imagine a version of this where it would work in any other way. But I really enjoyed it. From a graphic point of view, really ingenious, clever, nice animations, simple but effective layout and the way that the action played out. From a gameplay point of view, genuinely innovative and unique, and you could have multiple attempts at the game and get different responses and play it out differently. I really, really like this game, and I'd encourage anyone to sort of play it. And it's not like this is a very early precursor to many games that come later down the line where you can choose multiple responses and respond and choose whether to shoot someone or not. I mean, that is a Mass Effect, it is Red Dead Redemption. There's obviously scaled down massively in graphics and all the rest of it. But you know what? The genesis of an idea and an acorn that's been planted is there. And I think Law of the West ably plays that out. It got a mid to average review in Zapped, which surprised me, but I suppose it could be argued that it gets quite samey over time. It's the same thing a lot. But I enjoyed my time with it. And that's saying something, because I don't generally like these kind of games and Western games. But did you?
Yeah. I mean, I really like this game. I did play it back then, and I did endure the tape version.
Ooh.
And I seem to still have nice memories of it, so I don't think it annoyed me that much. I think it was quite a fast loader. I know it. I did 2 playthroughs of this. So the first time I played it through properly, and I was actually quite a good sheriff. I made the first guy have a drink. I calmed him down. I annoyed the barkeep, though. I befriended the Mexicali kid. Doc then told me that the Daltons were going to rob the bank, but I didn't notice, and I got shot by them. But the Doc saved my life, and I got a handy plaster. I tried to get the guy with the shotgun to share it, but he left. Then the little kid told me about the bank robbery, and I stopped it. I ended up taking Miss April to the hoedown, managed to get her to not go with the Doc. Bored the gambler. I sent the deputy to the train depot, which is weird. I mollified Belle the Rustler, and then Bub shot me, but it was just a flesh wound, and that was all right. And this is the thing: none of these, apart from the 2 bank robberies, none of them ended up in shootout. Everything can be talked down, or you can have conversations that go in a different way. This isn't about shooting people. My second playthrough, I shot everyone before they even got to the conversation. Because you have that complete freedom, including the small child.
Harsh. But it was the Wild West for a reason.
Yeah, all it says was, you're quite quick on the draw or something. Something like that's the only bit of text you get. And the thing was, when it finished, my score was a lot less. My first score was 2,582, whatever that meant, and I got a load of stats. My second one was just a load of tombstones. This is my stats, which was great. And it's that this game has that level of freedom to it that you can just gun everyone down. Gun everyone. You can be an absolute ass, like you're saying about Mass Effect. You can be the renegade.
You can be the
or
dick.
You can be the or the paragon. You can do those. Yeah, you can be an absolute ass. Didn't you go through the
entirety of Mass Effect punching everybody in the face? Was that you that did that?
Yeah. I've done multiple playthroughs. Yeah, and I've done a playthrough where I just was the absolute picked the worst response constantly just to get my glowing cheeks. Yeah, you got it. I did the same in Fable as well. It's another one you could do it in, and ended up with like big red horns and stuff. Yeah, but this game is a really early precursor to all of those, and you're right. It does look, graphically, it's really nice. It keeps it nice and simple. It's clearly, it's character graphics, I think, by the looks of it. But the backgrounds, the way that they change, also as well, if you do play through it a second time, the backgrounds are randomized. It's not always the same stuff. That same character don't always come out in the same place, which is quite nice. I like the little I don't normally like single colour sprites, but those little single colour sprites moving about in the background, they kind of work because it's almost like they're in silhouette. So that kind of, everything works. The same person, I can't remember her name, but the same woman, I think the woman, did the visuals for Hardball as well and Psyops. So it's the same person doing the visuals here. So clearly a very talented artist for the C64, because the visuals in this are great. And the character on the, them coming out, and the animations as well, if you do shoot them, there's some really nice animations of them falling down and stuff. It's a thoroughly enjoyable game in the way that, you've got, I think there's 12 different conversations to have. Each one can go in multiple different ways. You can learn about bank robberies. You can stop stuff. There's loads of different variations. None of them, sometimes you just might get killed. And it's, if you don't befriend the doc, he won't save you if you get shot. So your game can end quite quickly. But befriending him, he'll get you out of it. And I was worried at the second time when I got shot, because when Bub shot me, that because I'd convinced Miss April to go to the hoedown with me and ditch the doc, that he was going to send me to Boot Hill. But luckily he didn't. He saved me, so that was all right. I think this is a great game. I'm surprised you'd never played it. I thought you might have played it back then.
No, I genuinely hadn't. It's a real surprise.
I think it's one that, again, I know of it, but I don't see it in the conversation very often. I don't see it mentioned very much. And I think it deserves a bit better than that. I think this is a real, again, one of those games that's doing something that you will see a lot more of as games evolve. And this is very, very clever and very good. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's doing something different. It's playing to its strengths, and it's doing it well. And great game. I loved it. That was great.
No, agree completely. Nothing to add to that other than definitely one I would recommend some people go and check out. I like these games. This is one of the great things about doing this podcast, that you come across these games that have the early ideas in them that later on you see expanded. And there's a lesson for any games creation students that may or may not be listening to this podcast. There's a lesson here about how to create branch narratives and how to create those things, because they were doing it 30 plus years ago, and it's an effective way of being able to. You don't need to have lots of complexity in games and lots of complex characters interweaving. You just need to have some choices to make that have consequence. That can be a game, and this proved it. I really, really, really liked it. I had such a fun time playing it. I really did.
Yeah. Whoever wrote the dialogue had a real knack for good little single line, because some of them actually did make me genuinely laugh.
Yeah.
That's very, very rare, especially back then. I can't think of many games that make me laugh for the right reason.
No.
There are many games that make me laugh for the wrong reasons around this period, but actually genuinely making me laugh with a line of dialogue is quite unusual. And this one manages it.
Lucasfilm games, Zap McCracken actually is the first game that had me properly belly laughing at some of the dialogue that's in that. But there's a pedigree to that. It's a Schaefer game, isn't it? So it's the pedigree to.
I think so, yeah.
So there's a pedigree in there. But you know what? This has got it. This does have that. You're right. You're exactly right. Right down to the sort of, the idea of dueling that you get in Monkey Island. You can see there's heritage in this game. It does have that. I really, really liked it, and I'd recommend anyone to go and have a go.
Yeah.
It's worth a shot of anyone's time.
Absolutely, you can do a lot worse than.
You can indeed. You could play Gerry the Germ.
Spend your. Oh God, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Play Lord of the West.
Play Lord of the West, have a good time, or go and wipe your ass with a piece of sandpaper. That's the same as playing Gerry the Germ.
It is very similar to the game we're going to talk about next.
Oh,
let's move on.
Dear me.
To our final. Game for this episode, a game of two sections, two things, shall we say. One being the game and the other being the music. We often do this, and we find this with a lot of stuff on the C64. We'll find this as time goes on. There will be a lot of games where we absolutely adore the music, but the game is garbage. This is one, and Gerry the Germ didn't even have the good music, but this is one of those first ones where the game is bad, but the music is amazing, and that game is Comic Bakery. So, it's a game that feels to me like a delivery device for Galway. That's what it feels like. One of its standout title tunes, because that title tune is amazing. It's an astonishing piece of music, and it's an original as far as I'm aware. It is one of his own. It isn't a cover.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Which he does in other places. So it's his own tune sort of thing. And it is brilliant. I love the title screen tune to this. Shame the game is garbage. I don't know. Is this an arcade conversion? I couldn't quite work out whether it was or not. Or is this an original?
So. I couldn't find an arcade that was Comic Bakery-esque.
Was it not? Oh, okay.
I couldn't find one.
Okay, it looks and feels like an arcade conversion, a rubbish one. So what's Comic Bakery? Comic Bakery, okay. Raccoons have invaded the bakery and keep turning off the bread making machines. There are 3 of them in the first level, and you as the comic baker have to run back and forth, left and right, and essentially just running to the switches and turn them back on. You have a stun gun, which you can stun the raccoons with, which allows you to boot them off the screen, but this does no use because they just come straight back on. I'm not quite sure if they're trying to steal the bread. There's a raccoon up on the top, which you can stun for like the minimum of about a second. It's a 2D game. You run back and forth. Now, my notes on this got quite detailed because I put, as a slave to the bourgeoisie, you must run back and forth to ensure the machines keep getting turned back on so the rich have enough bread to fill their faces with. It's capitalist propaganda.
Heavy. Heavy.
That's where this game led me.
Whoa.
And I put,
okay.
it's also not very good. Being a bit bland and dull and not much to it, and even Galway's tunes can't save it. It did feel like you were just like some work guy sort of thing. We just had to make bread for the rich people, and you're just running back and forth, and that was your job. It was produce bread so people could eat it. Every now and again, you would get a weird shot of people eating bread in a cafe, and then you would be back to more machines and more raccoons and more bread making. I mean, where was your assistant? Why were you the only one in there? There's lots of problems with this game. I didn't like it. What did you think?
This felt to me like it was the arcade game that never was.
Yeah,
it does. There's no doubt about it. It's a Konami game under its hood somewhere in there, and it was an MSX conversion. I don't know much about the MSX, but it was an MSX conversion, and on the one hand, and we said this about Doughboys, in there is somewhere hiding in there is a good game. The idea of something of a factory of stuff happening, and you've got to sort of run around switching the things and keep the production line going. That's a very arcade idea. And later down the line, there's a game out for the PS4 where you've got I forget what it's called, but you've got same sort of idea. You've got to cook burgers and you've got to cook meals, and they keep coming out on a conveyor, and you've got to keep producing them and outputting them.
Overcooked.
Yeah. So there's an idea in there that is, in the right hands and in the right way, quite playable. The sad thing here is that it just misses the mark. I think because parts of it don't make a lot of sense. So why raccoons? Don't know. They don't really look like raccoons anyway. Why would raccoons be eating bread anyway? I don't. It's just it doesn't really matter. The logic of it doesn't feel hugely fun to play because you just end up really just switching things on and off and just praying that your bread gets to the delivery truck at the end, and then it's just more and more of the same. So I think it's an arcade idea that never got made into an arcade for those exact reasons. It's a bit like that. Really, it's a bit like that Bouncing Babies game where they come bouncing out of the hospital window. An arcade game, and you got to bounce them across to the ambulance, and then when they get enough babies in the ambulance, it drives off, and then it's like level 2, and there's more bouncing babies. I get what it's even called. Might be called Bouncing Babies. I don't know, but it's that kind of arcade mentality. So it's do, repeat, and hindrance, and you either like that or not. It's just a bit late in the day for that kind of game on the C64. This is a 1982, 1983 kind of idea, not really 1986 kind of idea. So the game itself is a letdown and just becomes difficult and annoying very quickly. The music, on the other hand, is interesting. Now, I like the music for Comic Bakery. I think it's a genuinely great piece of opening music in that open level. Now, would I put that music to Comic Bakery? No. The music doesn't suit that game at all. It's a terrible mismatch. But do you know what? I'll settle for a terrible mismatch and I'll listen to the music because it's great. The rest of the music is a genuinely nice piece. It's kind of slow, methodic, almost guitar solo-y in places. Quite a nice theme to it. Totally not running around a bakery trying to stop raccoons from stealing bread, or croissants as it is in the other version. So the music doesn't match the game, which makes me think that this music wasn't for this game. So it'd be interesting to have a conversation with Martin Galway and ask him about the Comic Bakery music and ask him the genesis of that, because I don't think it was really meant for this game. Now, why it ended up getting used for it, and who knows why. Maybe it was just something that had to happen. I don't know. The game lacked something, and I think what it lacked was it was released at the wrong time. It was too late. And the music is just something that managed to really... People remember it for the music. They don't remember it for that game. And that tells you everything you need to know about Comic Bakery. And the score in Zapped 35 is adequate. And I think because 1895 is a lot of money to ask for that. A lot of money to ask for that, especially when there's other arcade conversions and games cheaper.
I mean, it looks quite nice. The graphics are quite big, bold, and bright. That's why I thought it was another one in their wave of sort of arcade conversions that we get, like, look at Yeah Kung Fu, we've got Green Beret coming down the line. Comic Bakery seems to fit into that.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think, if it was lined up with Tapper at the time Tapper came out,
yes,
then you might say, actually, there's a place for that. next to Tapper and games like Tapper, where there's that arcade one screen or small scrolling screen methodology, switching switches on and off. There is a place for that. But it's not 1986 in April when you've got all these other games that have been coming before it with more complexity. Just, it's out of time. It's out of its time, and I think released way too late, or should perhaps never have been released. It's certainly an odd conversion from the MSX to the Commodore 64. I don't believe it made it to any of the formats, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, shouldn't have done.
No.
There we go.
There you go.
No, I always thought Comic Breaker was a weird one. It was kind of one of them games you kind of wanted it to be. You wanted it to be more and better than what it was because of its presentational style, but it's all, it's a nicely cooked. It's the Griswold turkey.
Yeah, it is.
It looks nice on the outside, but when you cut into it, there's nothing there but bone and gristle.
It's too dry.
Yeah.
And yes, you're exactly right. And I think the trappings of lots of fancy packaging and everything else might have made it sell a few, but it wasn't really going to sell it to me. And you know what? It's funny. I suddenly remembered. I remembered listening to the music for Comic Bakery, hearing all about the music for Comic Bakery. I'd never played the game up until we did this podcast. So,
had you not?
No, I never had. I think because somebody back in the day had said to me, "Oh, the music's great, game's crap." And
probably
of course,
me.
Probably. And then later down the line, of course, you don't need the games to listen to the music with modern technology, do you? You can just download them and listen to them away you go. So I was aware of the music way more. I was aware of the music way more than I was aware of the game. Thankfully, what a shame though. Shame. Good music, nice video. Shame about the song. Or should I say, nice song. Shame about the video. So not very good.
Indeed. Right. There we go. That's our last game of this episode. Let's move on. Quickly now, because we've only got a couple. Crapverts are getting better. Well, adverts are getting better. Crapverts are getting less.
I think so, wouldn't you?
We've got a couple of adverts to look at. A little Crapverts before we round off this episode. So let's move into them, shall we? Let's move in. Our first one, we'll be looking at this game next week. And it's the most boring advert. It's so boring.
Yeah, how to make football a football game.
Boring.
How to make it supremely boring.
So this is the official FA Cup game. I'm pleased to notice that the recommended retail price is $7.95. And obviously it's sponsored by England because it's got the three lions. I knew you were asking who was in the England Cup. There's obviously Brian Robson holding the FA Cup above his head in a very small picture in the middle. It's like, couldn't you have made that bigger? In the background, so there's a massive FA Cup wording with yellow and red drop shadow, with a silhouette of the FA Cup taking up most of the page in orange in the back, and the rest of it's just white with lots of text. It's so boring. There's so much you can do with football to make it be interesting.
Yeah.
So much.
Feature a ball.
Not Brian Robson. And it's only Brian Robson from the neck up. It's not even all of Brian Robson.
And that wouldn't necessarily appeal to every football fan at the time, would it? Because assuming that he's holding the FA Cup and they won it that year and whatever team he's in.
He's Manchester United. Brian Robson is so I would have been like, pfft.
That's what I mean. So, the players that aren't into that particular image are going to be spitting on it. Why is the little England Lions, three lions thing on there? Is that something to do with it?
I think that's the symbol for the FA.
Ah, right, okay. Well, it's all there.
But what gets me is Tony Williams, celebrated author of League Club Directory and FA Non-League Club Directory. None of this is selling anything to me.
No, it's boring, isn't it?
He's provided authentic, up-to-date home and away form for a total of 124 league and non-league teams. Now, we'll come to this next week. I'm so desperate to hear what you thought of this game.
I can imagine. Do you know, the sentence that gave me a chuckle on viewing this advert was above all, the official FA Cup football game comes with realistic results. Like non-realistic results. Manchester won 47-0. They scored 192 goals. It was strange.
But that's why the Football Association have given it their full approval.
Yeah, of course they have. You mean they've endorsed it heavily by putting a player balancing a cup on his head on there, has they? Right, okay.
It's just so boring. It annoyed me because I like football, and I know that football can be advertised in an interesting way. There's lots of ways to advertise the FA Cup.
Yeah.
This is not it. It's really boring and really dull.
It's like advertising the cup itself. Like that features heavily in there, just the cup. Not football, like the kicking of a ball, players diving, headers, movement, kinetic energy, fans cheering, screaming, all the things that when someone says football to you, all of those things that you think of, it highlights all of that. It just has a picture of a guy balancing a massive trophy on his head.
And the other thing with this game is that you are a manager, aren't you? So you're a manager, not a player or anything. So you could easily have had, someone shouting from the dugout, trying to point, giving a bit of, a bit of emotion. There's loads of, we see lots of footage of managers in the dugout with all, Klopp jumping up and down, or Mourinho, whoever it was back then, Brian Clough or somebody could be giving it a bit of aggro and what have you. Some image like that would have been like, oh, that gives the sort of feeling that there's there's a sense of passion and drama.
Yeah, choke slamming a Sun reporter to the ground.
Any of that.
Any of that.
Way better.
All of that stuff.
And why orange for a silhouette?
Yeah, an orange silhouette's weird, but to put a yellow and red FA Cup on top of that, it makes it feel kind of Mexican. It's like Mexican. It is the FA Cup, senor.
And also as well, I mean, it just does look. It's never good to put it that way because it does look like a fuck up.
Yes, it does look like a massive fuck up, doesn't it? And why have the? Because it makes me like, because they've got the official, fine, and they put it in a blue box. All right, you know what? Do that if you're going to do that. And we've got a nice serif font in there a little bit, so you've got the little, it's the Times-ish font in there. Okay, fine, I'm over it. The FA Cup is just not explainable in any typeface conversation we're about to have. Bit. The game's just kind of, it's like I want to say, is that meant to be it's like a football scarf of some description? Or is
I think
that like
it might be, yes.
So they've just got the word game. I want a scarf that just says game, and I want football supporters who support Manchester United all to go to the next game with just the game scarf. Game.
In white.
Yeah, just in white. You're not supporting anything other than the game, the word game. Yep. And when you do view this, because the adverts all go on their website at zappedtothepast.com, you can view all these crapverts, and you'll see what we mean. I want a scarf with the word game on. I'm going to find a way of making that happen.
Don't look at this too long, though, because you will literally bore yourself to death.
It is. You're right. My eyeballs have already just fallen asleep themselves. I'm trying to, big blinks. I'm giving it big blinks.
Let's move on to the next one, because the next one is going to make them widen.
Oh, busy. So busy.
It's going to make them widen with that Miss Piggy.
It's just wrong.
What's going on in that Miss Piggy and Return to Oz advert?
Everything's weird about that advert. Why? Just you know what? Just don't
can
make
you
games
explain to our
angles.
listeners what we're looking at here?
So you've got so I think it's an advert from Boots, the opticians, Boots the chemist, I think, which is a pharmacy. So it's a pharmacy behind this advert, bizarrely enough. You've actually got an advert for, I think, 3 games. There's Donald Duck's Playground, electronic... it's some kind of Muppets game. I can't even see what this...
I think it's a Story Maker.
Muppets Electronic Story Maker and Return to Oz. That's coming soon, though, thank God. And all of the games in this advert, if you imagine an A4 poster, turn your head 45 degrees to the left as if you've got a crick in your neck, and that's the angle that they've drawn all of these at. So all of the text, all of the imagery, all of the everything apart from the Boots logo is at that 45 degree angle from sort of left to right. So you've got a mishmash of fonts that are hard to read. This is apparently for a new generation of children, which is kind of shouted at you. Then it says a new generation of software from, and then I'm guessing Boots, but at the bottom it says kids in some really weird writing, and US Gold
and
is down there.
US Gold, yeah.
Yeah.
In that, it's still in that weird 45 degree angle.
Yeah, it's all at that jaunty angle. So... And then you've got some text at the bottom with the US Gold address is not in that. It's actually straight. And then you've got to try and read the angles of this text. So it hurts your neck trying to do it. Not only that, but they put it in microscopic tiny writing, which is nausea-inducing. So if you didn't get a stroke from trying to crick your neck, you're definitely going to get one by trying to strain your eyes, trying to read the writing about what the games is. So I've got it zoomed in here, and I can barely make out what these games are actually about. I think on the right-hand side, it's just got the address in Birmingham again for some reason, and I'm not sure why, but it looks like multiple addresses. So, and I think it's because it's available. I think it's available at the following stores. So it's a mishmash of adverts for games for kids, I guess, because it's got the word kids, at least on 2 of them, because the Return to Oz game doesn't have kids on it. Now, Return to Oz is based on the film Return to Oz, so it's got TikTok and the characters from that in it ish.
Hang on. It's got representations of those characters. That lion.
Yeah. So he's had a stroke, the lion. So you can't quite make out what they are. None of the games have screenshots, so you've got no idea what they look like. I am honestly surprised. It looks to me like Kermit the Frog has had a stroke, and that Gonzo in the background there is looking like he caused it. Whereas Miss Piggy, her face is both difficult to explain in terms of not sounding rude, but it's just you know what? Just go on to zappedtothepast.com and view this monstrosity yourself. I'm just horrified by the array of fonts on there. It's so horrific to my eyes. I mean, if you look, you've got The kids is in a different font to the generation of children, which is different to the new generation, which is different to Boots, which is different to the typeface that the general information text is in. They're all mishmash of colours. You go from yellow to orange to green to blue to white on to black on white. What a crazy person put this advert together and thought it was good. No, if there was an advert you showed a graphic designer and said, you know what? If you ever work for me, if you ever design that, I'm going to kill you. And show them the advert, because it's the worst possible thing you could show.
Oh, those Return to Oz characters kill me.
They're just
I know you get annoyed
awful.
at the typeface, but it's like a horror version. It's like they've been melted slightly. Jack Pumpkinhead, whatever he is, looks like something from a horror film. It's horrific.
These are big licenses. So Walt Disney, Donald Duck, huge. Muppets, massive. Return to Oz, I wasn't a fan of the film, but it was a big license deal from, I'm guessing it would be MGM or Warner or one of the big film companies.
Something like that.
So these aren't small fly-by-night, Bob down the road has made a Donald Duck game. These are big licensed products from US Gold. But these are a cash grab. And it looks like you get 2 games for the price of 1, maybe with the cassette 9 out of 5. Maybe you get all 3. Who knows? I won't spend money on them, though. I find...
You notice as well, on that the blue stripe that's going across the middle, it's coming in out from the right of the Return to Oz one. It's like it's got its raster bar wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't go up smoothly.
No, it's got bad lines on that. Absolutely. If this was a C64 demo, the coders need bloody shooting. Not only that, but you know what? If I ever see on any of these Crapverts again a green drop shadow on orange, I swear I am travelling in time to find the guy or woman or person that did that, and it's going to be some kind of time-based murder. No, there is no excuse for a green drop shadow. Green. I mean, that logo is yellow and green on orange. Green drop shadow? No. No.
Oh, that's amazing, that advert. Oh, it's really good. Anyway, there we go. I don't even know what that one's for. I don't even know what it's for. Donald Duck's Playground, Muppets Electrics, Return to Oz, and the FA Cup. That's our Crapverts. There's only a couple for this episode, but
awful.
There's actually there's 3, well, 2 in there. That Muppets and Return to Oz thing.
Awful.
There's almost 2 for the price of 1 there, which is what you get if you buy the games. And ironically enough, there you go. That's this episode. Oh, I love that one. It's brilliant. Okay, so what have we looked at? We've looked at, games-wise, we've looked at Zoids, Back to the Future, Starship Andromeda. We looked at Rock and Wrestle, Gerry the Germ, Law of the West, and finally Comic Bakery. We've got a lot coming up. We've got the rest of the games from issue 12 of Zapped 64. We've got the rest of those coming up. April 1986. Next week, we'll be looking at things like, not them all, but Phantoms of the Asteroid, GR Kung Fu. We'll be looking at FA Cup football and seeing if it lives up to the promise of that amazing advert. And we've also got to look at Master of Magic. So that's that, really. That's us for this episode. Graham, do you want to tell people where they can find us?
I most certainly can. Feel free to go to zappedtothepast.com, where you will find our website with all of the podcasts that you can download, amongst other things as well. You'll find the Crapverts and all sorts of other goodies. You can also find us on Twitter under @ZappedToThe. You can also Google us by Googling zappedtothepast.com or just Zapped to the Past. And of course, you can find us on Facebook under Zapped to the Past, Instagram, Zapped to the Past. In fact, just Zapped to the Past for pretty much every sign of social media thing you can find. We're out there. Feel free to interact with us, email us. That's zappedtothepast@gmail.com. You can communicate with us. We're happy to receive your feedback, comments, suggestions, and or other cool things. We're always available. We're here for you. We play these games so you don't have to.
That is true. And some of them we really wish we didn't have to play. No. Quick shout outs to Retro Asylum. I'll get the name right this time. Listen to that podcast. It's very good.
It is.
So we've got a quick shout out there. We've also got shout outs to Pop Collaborate and Listen. I'll always give them a shout out because they are fun.
Very funny guys. Very funny guys.
They are good.
Their recent, by the way, just as an aside, their recent episode, they've restarted doing them again, but their recent episode on the E17 album is it's brilliant. So definitely, if you're not checking out for any other reason, check out the E17 episode from Pop Collaborate and Listen, because it is brilliant. Yeah, really good.
It is very good, yeah. Another shout out to Hands on Gaming. That's another good retro podcast you might want to give a listen to. That's just started up. They've got a couple of episodes out now. I've yet to listen to the second one. I will be rectifying that tomorrow, which is on the game Creatures.
Same.
Which is, I understand, is a good game, but I've never actually played Creatures, so
good.
That'll be one we'll probably get to
later
at some
in the
point.
day on the 664, I think, that one.
It was late, but their first episode was on Ninja, wasn't it? And that was a very good episode.
Yeah,
so go
Robert
listen. That's
soundtrack,
hands-on gaming. So there you go. All good stuff. We recommend. Go listen to them. So that's it. That's it for this episode. And this week, I've been Adrian Mills.
I have been Graham, playing snooker with Chaz and Dave Raddings.
You have indeed. I've been Laura the West. Thank you for listening. We've been Zapped to the Past. We'll catch you next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, sights, sounds and news from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zapped 64 magazine published at the time. We will be back next week with another podcast, so do please join us. Until then, please head over to zappedtothepast.com to sign up to our email list, as well as check out all the links and resources in the show notes. You will also find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram under Zapped to the Past. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zapped 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe and see you next time.